families and lives. 30-year-old Jim is a recovering compulsive gambler here in Cincinnati. He's an active member of the Cincinnati chapter of Gamblers Anonymous. He is a one-time golf club pro. He works as a painting contractor, but gambling nearly wrecked his life. And Jim has had a personal interest in following the Pete Rose saga.
Jim, do you feel that Pete Rose shows some of the characteristics of being what can be labeled a compulsive gambler?
What I've seen in the paper and on TV, I'd have to say yes. The characteristics of a person being a compulsive gambler, betting a little more than you can afford to lose, gambling more often, just hours in the day, gambling on different sports, not just one or another. You gamble on a number of things.
What was your feeling about it when you first heard about it?
Like you said, I felt for him because I knew what he was going through. To be accused of, not a crime, but being accused of being a problem gambler, having bet, I think he went into denial right away and obviously said no, he didn't do it, whether he did it or not. I felt bad for him. I feel bad for anybody that has a gambling problem or a drug or alcohol problem or is addicted to anything, because it's a nightmare. And it's a hard thing to get off, but there is help out there, and you can beat it.
Now, if Rose is suspended or thrown out of baseball, how do you think he'll react to that?
That's hard to say. Being thrown out of baseball or suspended for a long period of time, that might be Pete Rose's bottom. That might, if he does have a problem, that might say to him, it's affecting more than just, my average day life. It's affecting my livelihood in baseball and everything I love. But if he, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see.
My conversation with Jim from the Cincinnati chapter of Gamblers Anonymous. Meanwhile, here at Riverfront, as I stand 10 feet away from the Reds dugout, it is on to baseball. Pete Rose awaits the decision from Judge Norbert Nadel, a decision that will come tomorrow, a decision that will probably lead to more legal maneuvering. But for now, the Reds have the Dodgers on their mind. I'm Marv Albert from Riverfront in Cincinnati. Stay tuned for the Game of the Week.
Once upon a time, there was a troubled young left-hander by the name of Steve Howe, whose overall ability was so great that he helped pitch the Dodgers to the 1981 World Championship over the New York Yankees. And the Dodgers, in the euphoria of winning that championship, felt that they could trade away other left-handers in the organization. And they traded for a utility infielder, Rafael Landeskog, trading away a left-hander whom they assumed was excess baggage, a left-hander by the name of John Franco, who was to turn out to be the top left-handed relief pitcher in the National League this year. The Dodgers still search for the left-hander to take the place of Steve Howe. Carlos Diaz and Dennis Powell arrived, and Ed Vanderberg and Brad Havens, too. And then Matt Young and Jesse Orosco. And today, two left-handers in the bullpen still trying to replace Howe, Ricky Horton and Ray Series. There is another left-hander the Dodgers are trying to rediscover, and his name is Fernando Valenzuela, the man who started Fernando Mania the same year that Howe helped lead the Dodgers to the '81 championship, and his name is Fernando Valenzuela. So today, the Dodgers in pursuit of Fernando Valenzuela against the Cincinnati Reds and John Franco.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's magical moments. And baseball's miracles. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week.
into the city of Cincinnati. Temperatures in the 90s and humidity to go along with it. Pure and simple, it's hot in Cincinnati, Ohio. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Tom Seaver. Welcome to Riverfront Stadium. It is more than just hot and a weather story. It is also the seed of all of the Pete Rose troubles that will be resolved, at least partially, come tomorrow around noon, when the justice who has been listening to the hearing will make his decision. Meanwhile, the Reds continue to play ball. They fight the adversity of injuries. That's part of the game. The Rose problems rarely surface, and it affects even the best of them. The best player for the Cincinnati Reds might very well be Barry Larkin. The Reds have just come back from a trip to California where they won 5 and lost 8, primarily because they played on grass. Let's meet Barry and go to Tom Seaver.
Thank you, Vinny. Barry Larkin, the ball club, has been struggling lately. What effect has all this Pete Rose brouhaha had on the ball club?
Well, I don't know what effect the Pete Rose situation has on the ball club, but every time we go out to the West Coast, we seem to have a tough time. We went out a game and a half in first place, and now we're in third place now. So, we're trying to struggle back from that. But, hopefully this Pete Rose situation won't affect us too much.
Now, one of the things about baseball coming to the ballpark is it's a happy occasion. Is some of the joy gone when you have to come to the ballpark and you know it is a circus the way it is around here?
Well, it's been a little frustrating as of late because there's been so much media around. Hopefully this thing will be resolved pretty soon, and hopefully we can continue to just go out there and play good ball. But, I think the media situation now, as heavy as it is getting, is starting to affect the ball club a little bit.
Has Pete said anything to the players about the situation?
Well, Pete's been relatively quiet. He hasn't said much throughout this whole thing. But, the other day in Atlanta, we got swept in a doubleheader. He came out and got on us a little bit down there. But, other than that, he really hasn't said too much at all.
All right, Barry, good luck today.
All right, thank you.
Vinny, back to you.
So the Cincinnati Reds players, and for that matter, the entire baseball world, will hold its breath collectively until noon tomorrow afternoon. But meanwhile, the Reds have a baseball game to play. We'll get to the starting lineups. We'll have all the pregame stats and stories all coming up right after this.
The Game of the Week is brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Bud Light, everything else is just a light. By Mr. Goodwrench. Mr. Goodwrench knows it's not just a car, it's your freedom. And by Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. Die Hard, with more power when you need it most. And now, here's today's Die Hard starting lineup.
For the Dodgers, their 46th different lineup this year. Mariano Duncan in right, Willie Randolph, followed by Kirk Gibson, and then Eddie Murray. Jeff Hamilton at third. Jose Gonzalez with Mike Socia, Alfredo Griffin, and Fernando Valenzuela. And on the mound, the big left-hander, Tim Burtzes, who has made 4 starts in his young career in the National League, and he is 0-3. The last time he won as a starter was in 1985 when he was pitching in the American League against Baltimore. Mariano Duncan appeared as a pinch hitter in last night's game and had a base hit. And we're underway, 0-1.
Burt's is a great big guy, Vinny is right, 6'7", 240. But he is not a pitcher that will overpower you.
Fouled away off to the right, out of play, and the count 0-2. Primarily a relief pitcher, he began his career in the Yankee organization, and he eventually moved around with Jose Rio. From Oakland, he came here with Rio for Dave Parker. Off speed, the 2 big men in the National League. Tim Burch is 6'7", Rick Sutcliffe 6'7", and the biggest man has moved over to the American League, Randy Johnson, 6'9", formerly with Montreal. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2-2 the count. Mariano Duncan, who was the #1 candidate as a play-everywhere position player, is getting a shot in right field. Mike Davis doesn't play against left-handers, and down he goes. 1 away.
Duncan in the leadoff spot didn't like the call at all by the home plate umpire, Harry Wendelstedt. Looking outside, and you get a fastball inside. look a lot faster than it normally is. One of the things that Versus will do, because he is so big, he will be deceptive in the sense, almost the reverse. You think he throws hard, but he really is not a flamethrower.
I guess when you're 6'7" and you're standing on a 10-inch mound, you would expect that everything this man would throw would have to get there in a hurry. 1-0 to Willie Randolph, who has really become the only consistent offensive player in the lineup. He's hitting .296, 9th in the league. He's been hitting about .390 in the last 15 games. He has really come alive with the bat since he has moved to the number 2 slot. And Barry Larkin, the shortstop for the Reds, has come alive with the bat since they put him in the number 3 spot. Why that happens, no one knows.
Every player, a different situation. They get comfortable in one position in the lineup. Randolph very comfortable in number 2 spot.
He has also given the Dodger infield something it has not had in many, many, many years. Maybe not since Brooklyn almost. And that would be the ability to turn a double play. The Dodgers have turned 74 double plays. They're tied with the Giants. Little flare off to the right and out of place. Randolph also leads all National League second basemen in assists. Tim Burch is pitching today because Danny Jackson is on the DL with a sore arm. And it's very hot and very muggy here. 91, 92 degrees. Humidity right up there along with it. Lasorda doesn't need it to shed any more weight. But that's the question for you. You've pitched here. You've pitched in the heat. It's a tough assignment.
This is a hot ballpark, and especially on a summer afternoon, the artificial surface will really retain the heat. Some studies done on the temperatures. It reaches down there 155, 160. Wow. There you see the defense of Youngblood, Rooms, and O'Neill in the outfield. Sabo, Larkin, Harris, and Benzinger in the infield, and Diaz behind the plate. 160 degrees sometimes right in the turf itself. This is one of the hardest ballparks. The hardest ballpark I ever played in, I always felt, was Busch Stadium on a Sunday afternoon. Sitting right along the river, lots of humidity, and it would really get hot and close. But this is a close second, if you will.
And of course, both ballparks very close to water, which increases the humidity.
We are right next to the Ohio River.
Yeah, 1-1. The Dodgers with Duncan and Randolph right-hand hitters, and Burgess takes care of them by striking them out, and he's been particularly tough on left-hand hitters this year. And Gibson is in a struggle. Kirk, who is the firebrand, and this would be the 10th game in which he has led off, and the Dodgers have won 6 of 9. But he's struggling. He went 0 for 11 in a recent San Diego series and 0 for 4 last night. So the catalyst is suddenly 0 for 15. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2-2 the count to Gibson. Eddie Murray on deck. We're just starting. Strikes out the side. So what a way for Tim Burgess to make a rare start and blow down Duncan, Randolph, and Gibson. At the end of half an inning, Dodgers nothing, Reds coming up. Here's the Reds lineup with Lenny Harris at second base and Todd Benzinger at first, Barry Larkin at shortstop, and Paul O'Neill in right field. Joel Youngblood is in left field, Chris Sabo at third, Rolando Rooms is in center, Bo Diaz behind the plate, and the pitcher Tim Burgess. For the Dodgers, Fernando Valenzuela making his 14th start as we welcome you folks who are watching the Boston-Minnesota game. We are going to the bottom of the first inning after Tim Burgess struck out the side against the Dodgers. Fernando is 3-5. He is 1-3 on the road, and against a ball club that usually gives him a bad time. 2 years ago, the Reds beat him 4 times. Chopper foul outside of first. Lenny Harris doing a very good job for the Reds at second base, given the opportunity because Ron Oster went down with a hamstring. Oster is taking light batting practice and is running very gingerly, but he says he will definitely be playing again before the All-Star break. The Reds have had a lot of people hurt, including Cal Daniels, their regular left fielder. Daniels suffered a hamstring pull, rested, finally got back on a rainy night in Atlanta, only to sprain his ankle. Then they lost Herman Winningham for 30-some-odd games. Eric Davis has a gangly cyst on a hamstring, which is why he's not in the lineup. Didn't play last night either.
Pete is playing a little bit short-handed, Vinny. Exactly right. Injuries have had their toll on both these ball clubs. You look over the Dodgers, they've lost Mike Marshall. Gibson has missed over 20 games.
Into right field for Lenny Harris. And so the leadoff man gets aboard, and Harris had 2 base hits. He had a single and a double, and a run batted in and a run scored, and he drives it by Eddie Murray.
Ball just hitting the hole, and on this turf, it's going to sneak on through. There's a defense for the Dodgers. Gibson, Gonzalez, and Mariano Duncan in right field, who people say for the Dodgers they like him to become the Jose Oquendo, be able to play every position. Jeff Hamilton, Alfredo Griffin, Willie Randolph, who does a superb job with Griffin at turning the double play, Eddie Murray and Mike Scioscia behind the plate.
Fernando historically has had troubles in the first inning. So the leadoff single by Harris is almost a storm warning. 0-1 the count. Todd Benzinger, formerly with the Boston Red Sox, and he's coming alive with the bat. He has a 7-game hitting streak. He had a base hit last night, and he's playing very well as he settles in. For the last 2 weeks, he's hit about .320, and he has some sock. Benzinger is a switch hitter. He had only 1 home run against a left-hander last year, but now he has 3 home runs right-handed and 4 left-handed. That's the breakdown on those 7. No balls and 2 strikes to Todd Benzinger. Harris at first. No score first inning. What a move. Fernando had Harris running back to first base on that pitch to the plate. So Lenny was somewhat intimidated. He's stolen 7 out of 10, but you can see he's not going anywhere, going back to the bag.
One of the things that a young player, not knowing the moves that a veteran pitcher will have, and not knowing whether he has more than 1 move. You know, you talk, Vinny, about troubles in the first inning. They're the good players that I played against, let's say the Gibsons and the Carltons. You know, you got to get them early. The question comes to mind I wanted to ask you, because you saw him for so many years. Koufax in the same category?
Yes. Foul back. Yeah, but it took Sandy a while to loosen up, and usually the game where he was having his problem, it would start right away. You'd come to the park and you'd see him throw 3 pitches to the leadoff man and say, oops, he's got it today. This might be a no-hitter. Or you'd see him wincing and he's high and having trouble. So Harris back to first, and the count 1-2 to Todd Benzinger. Interesting, there were 9 first-inning home runs hit against Dodger pitching last year. 9. 6 of them were hit against Fernando. Todd Benzinger has not been striking out, hitting right-handed, maybe 10% of the time. So that's why they put that hit-and-run play on, and why the Dodgers are convinced they're going to put it on some more.
The Reds have stolen 64 bases, and what I think is going through Pete Rose's mind is how flat the Dodgers look. He certainly would like to get on the scoreboard first.
Shot foul, and that almost wiped out several of the Dodgers down in the corner. That's Tim Birch's buddy, Tim Belcher, who's from Ohio, and it almost got him. Whew, that's too hot down there. Boy, was that thing sent in there in a hurry. And Belcher just did get down. Scary. Now he's going to sit down below the protective screen. The Galahad from Mount Gilead, Ohio, Tim Belcher. Another shot foul. And it's still 1-2. Benzinger hit well for the Red Sox, but they needed some relief, and they got left-hander Rob Murphy. But he looks like a good hitter.
What Fernando is trying to do here with the hit and run that has been put on, Benzinger would like to hit the ball in the hole over there between Randolph and Murray, but Fernando won't give him a pitch on the outside part of the plate. He wants him to hit it on the left side of the infield.
Fernando throws now a cut fastball to try and get a little more movement since he has lost velocity. And the big thing with him will be his control. I think Fernando Valenzuela is the most instinctive, smartest pitcher I've ever seen. I've never seen him make a mistake. I've never seen
every one of his games.
Yeah, I've never seen him throw to the wrong base. I've never seen him hurry and make... Oh, sure, he'll commit an error. Everybody will do that.
He has great presence on the mound. Great mental presence on the mound.
He's got him picked off. Eddie Murray down to Alfredo. And there's just another case. How Fernando ever learned all the things he knows, it's hard to believe. I mean, he's from the back of Beyond, a little town in Mexico. But instinctively, he does so many things right.
The Reds off to their running game. Pete, as I said, would die to get their first run on the board. This Dodger club, to me, looks like they are really down. They look really blasé.
Good screwball.
And it looks like if you get a run on the board, put them in the hole, it looks like you might beat them. And it's such a psychological advantage to get on that scoreboard for many managers a day. Probably nobody more than Tony La Russa that believes in their first run on that scoreboard. Put your opponents on the defensive.
Well, here now is the fellow that most people think is the best player on the Reds team, Barry Larkin. Larkin batting .353, second in the league. A marvelous talent. He can do it all. 2 balls and no strikes. Larkin also was the toughest hitter in the league to strike out last year, and he has struck out, about 5% this year.
He's about 1 for 13 strikeouts. He'll go up to 13 plate appearances and strike out once. Last year, he was the toughest. 1 strikeout maybe more than 27 times that he went to the plate.
So a 2-out walk will bring up Paul O'Neill.
Larkin was pretty candid before the game, Benny, about the troubles that are inside of that Cincinnati clubhouse and surround Pete Rose, and it does have to have an effect. It'll have an effect when you just drive to work. And he was pretty candid about that. One of the joys that every ball player has is going to work. It is so enjoyable. The fun of the game really is going and get into the clubhouse and see the people that you're playing with. When you know there's just going to be 1,000 media there when you show up now. And it has been tough. And this is basically a pretty young infield, a young ball club that the Cincinnati Reds have.
Of course, Rose himself has lived with media attention throughout his career, and notably, as he was on his way to break Ty Cobb's record, he had 1,000 media. But that was a happy occasion. This one is, what is it, the sword of Damocles holding over his head. Any minute it's liable to drop, and we'll find out about that come noontime tomorrow. That's squirted to the hole, backhanded by Alfredo, and it's too late. Randolph couldn't hold on to the ball anyway. It'll be a base hit. So in this first inning, Fernando has allowed 2 hits and a walk, but he has 2 out.
He made a good pitch on O'Neill, jammed him, and it looked like Griffin was going to make a great play. He is really spectacular at shortstop. Such agility does he have. You see him play every day, Benny. He is something. These guys, he and Randolph have learned to team together as well as anybody in the big leagues.
Well, I think it's amazing that Kirk Gibson quoted the other day, and Gibson said that Randolph and Griffin are the quickest he's ever seen, and then Kirk said, and remember, I played with Whitaker and Trammell for several years. So they're like 2 cats with a ball of twine down there at second base. That's one bright spot, full of sorta, anyway. Here's Joel Youngblood. 1 ball and no strikes. Because of the pitching shortage, another name out of the Reds history book was just given his release, Dave Collins. Here's another veteran, Joel Youngblood, who is still with the ball club. They brought up Mike Griffin from the minor leagues. Youngblood batting .232. Bubba, as they call him, slow Scroogey in there, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike.
This is a good hitter's park too, Benny, especially in the afternoon. 375 in the alleys, a little over 400 to straight away, 330 down the lines. But it is a good hitter's park, just like Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And during the daytime, the ball will travel better here. We'll get a lot of carry here. The heat off the turf. This is a good hitter's ballpark. Not only AstroTurf, but the ball carries very well.
Fernando has made 20 pitches here in the heat in the first inning. I've seen him a couple of years ago. He made 165 pitches and beat the Giants. Now back, talking about the Giants, Youngblood played with the Giants for quite a few years. 2 years ago, he was a fine pinch hitter for them. He had 3 home runs coming off the bench. He broke in with the Reds. Then he played with the Cardinals and the Mets. Then he went briefly to Montreal. Then he spent 6 years with the Giants, and now he's back where it all started, Cincinnati.
And he looks like he's exactly the same kind of hitter. Likes that high fastball from the middle end. And if he sees it, he's going to swing.
1 and 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 2 on and 2 out. Fernando, a workhorse, and he paid the price for it. You remember the most innings you ever pitched in 1 year? Did you ever get to 300?
I never got over 3. I think 290, 292 or something like that. But
no score.
Throw in spring training, throw in postseason play.
That's right. And a Scroogey is going to be hit into right center for a base hit. And kangaroo of a Mariano Duncan, backed up by Gonzalez, who bobbles the ball. 2-run score, and Youngblood is to third. Mariano Duncan, who does not have much experience playing on AstroTurf in the outfield, and he is bitten by the kangaroo hop. Watch this. Oh, a nightmare. Then Gonzalez, in his haste, juggles, and by the time he gets it in, Youngblood's to third. It'll be a triple and 2-run score. Now they flash triple, and now they are saying official score 2 base hits, so they're changing it. And an error for Gonzalez.
One of the real problems of getting people out of position, playing somebody in a brand new position, is Mariano Duncan is doing in right field, especially on this artificial surface. Boy, he said he was bitten, and that was exactly right, too. He got right in where he shouldn't have been.
So Gonzalez draws the error to allow Youngblood to get to third, and Fernando, who has had so much trouble in the first inning in the past, troubles again today. And remember, he picked off Lenny Harris, or it would be worse.
And it's not a matter of making bad pitches. You remember O'Neill, a jam shot, actually broke his bat. Griffin almost got a force play at second. Youngblood hits it off the end of his bat, ends up with a double.
And the point you were talking about, how important it is to get a jump. And the Dodgers, who are really down, they've lost 3 out of 4 on this road trip. It is not a ball club. It is not a ball club that comes from behind very often. Two balls and 2 strikes. The count to Chris Sabo. 2-0 Reds in the first inning. And that's hammered, but it's going to hook foul. Here's the play that might have ended the inning, but didn't.
Griffin made a great play going to his right, throwing back over his shoulder. I think the runner beat the play anyway.
I think so, too.
Yep.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. Sabo is kind of gutting it out. He has a hyperextended knee. He doesn't run very well, but he's playing every day. Kind of stiff-legged. And he's working on a full count with Rolando Rooms on deck. And the Scroogey walks him. So 3 hits, 2 walks, an error. The Reds leading 2-0, trying to blow the Dodgers right out of the water. And Ron Perinoski heading for the mound to see if he can't counsel Fernando, who's missing basically in the same spot, way outside with the screwball, and making 29 pitches in the first inning.
Right. Well, it could have been out of it, but he is not. Made some good pitches and bad pitches. The point, I think Fernando, having won 3 games in a row, pitching well, coming back from arm problems. And one of the problems, one of the things that a pitcher has to overcome, and it's a mental thing that you have to overcome, is belief in your fastball to be able to throw it in the strike zone. The reason Fernando has won 3 games in a row because he's been throwing strikes. You have to have enough confidence and belief in your fastball that you can throw it in the strike zone, because that is the pitch that will make the screwball effective. And it's tough to get across. Boy, when you come back from an injury, I'm telling you, it is tough to think that you can throw it out in that strike zone without getting hammered.
And he has to throw it inside to the right-hand hitters, not just in the strike zone, because if you throw it inside for strikes, then that screwball down and away is a killer. But if you're tentative and afraid to come in, well, your whole ballgame unravels.
Even if you want to throw it inside off the plate, you become afraid that you might miss and leave it out over the plate. And all you do, you have to get crushed a couple of times, and you can become very timid.
There's a fastball, but it's the same spot, up and away. He will not come in there. And then what really gets him in trouble, he's unable to throw the screwball for the strike. And they count 1 ball and 1 strike. So Pete Rose gets 2 in the bank here in the first inning. And he came in, and Rooms didn't get around on it. But he hit it almost to the warning track. That's the only time that Fernando has come into the hitter at all. And at the end of an inning, the Reds lead 2-0. Children in the ballpark, like flowers in the field, they're always worth looking at, especially if they're a couple of redheads.
You think you think they'll make a complete game today, as hot as it is there?
I doubt it.
I don't think. Not if they're redheaded and fair skinned like somebody else I know.
That's right. Eddie Murray fouls it away, and the count 0-1. 2-0 in favor of the Reds, top of the second inning. Eddie Murray has been struggling with the bat, and particularly as a right-handed batter. He's hitting just 185 from this side of the plate. Good curveball, 0-2. A reminder, we'll be presenting our State Farm Rules of the Game feature during our 7th inning stretch timeout. Eddie trying to get well against left-hander Tim Burtsis. 0-2. Fastball away. Classic pattern.
You may wonder about a pitcher who strikes out the side in the first inning. Now, Burtsis is not a power pitcher. Scotty Breeden has a couple of fastballs, got a forkball, a curveball, a slider, just basic stuff. And so what's one of the problems that he might have? One of the problems he has, he thinks he has too many pitches. Right? Jack of all trades and master of none. One of the problems of a non-power pitcher, when they go out there and strike out the side in the first inning, and then they think they will become power pitchers for the rest of the game, and it can all fall apart.
It's like some little hitter hits a home run.
Exactly right. Or a guy that goes up on the first tee and hits that drive right 260 yards. He's never hit one over 230 in his whole life. He's in 17 more holes. He's trying to hit it 260. It won't work.
3-2 to Eddie Murray. And he lifts a fly ball to straightaway center. Rolando Rooms is there. 1 down. You certainly don't need to throw the ball too hard. Here's a couple of notes in baseball. Carlton Fisk, the American League record when he hit his 307th home run as a catcher. Dwight Gooden, the 3rd youngest pitcher, the 2nd youngest, Noodles Hahn, and the youngest of all time to win 100, Bob Feller. Vince Coleman picked up some steals this year, plus the carryover from last year. He now has 38 straight, tying Davy Lope's Major League record that was set in 1975. And I guess it's only right that we should make the announcement while we're in Cincinnati that Buddy Bell announced his retirement today. His dad, Gus Bell, a great name in Cincinnati Reds history. And now Buddy has hung him up. 6-time Gold Glove winner. Talking before about you don't have to throw the ball hard to be a winner. Jeff Ballard of Baltimore is a classic case. He's won 9. He's right up there at the big winners. And I think, this is off the top of my head now, Ballard's worked 80-some-odd innings this year, just about almost 10 games, and he has 20 strikeouts. That's all. But he just kind of dazzles you with footwork.
That was one of the problems he had last year. He thought he was a power pitcher last year. I talked to Al Jackson, the Orioles pitching coach over there, and I said, what have you done to this kid? Why all of a sudden the big turnaround? He said, well, last year he thought he was a power pitcher. He's going to blow everybody away and strike everybody out. Had a lot of base on balls and behind all the hitters. And they've convinced him just to throw the ball over the plate, get it in play. They think that defense gets some outs for him, get ahead of the hitters and reduce the base on balls. Those keys to pitching, they're the same no matter what level you pitch at.
2 balls and 2 strikes to count. And that's a little flare down the right field line, slicing as it drops foul, and Hamilton will come back. One of the things that has happened here in Cincinnati and why the Reds are where they are is the fact they are a team that will beat you with speed, not the obvious speed of stealing bases, but speed defensively. When Sabo is 100% and you have the infield with Larkin, the left side of the infield, very tough to get the ball through. Then if you have Cal Daniels and Eric Davis sound, you can understand why the Reds are so much better on AstroTurf than they are on grass. The Reds are 11 games over 500 on AstroTurf. They're 4 games under 500 on grass. And that will do it for Hamilton. And part of it, I think, now for Burgess. He's saying to himself, hey, these guys can go and get them, so I'll throw strikes.
Throw strikes, and they got a strikeout with a breaking ball there. First 3 strikeouts on hard fastballs on the inside part of the plate. This is the breaking ball. It was going to be outside, and Hamilton just gave up on it. That's a big break on that curveball. He came out of right field. That really came out. Looks like an old Jerry Koosman curveball. Looked like it was coming from the dugout.
So 2 down. Burgess has struck out 4 of the first 5 hitters. And now he has the center fielder Jose Gonzalez. Jeff Hamilton storming around in the dugout. He's hot. They're all hot in there. 1-0. Off speed, and he flipped that thing in. 1 ball and 1 strike. Gonzalez, who is the frequent traveler for the Dodgers back and forth to Albuquerque, might have a chance to play a bit now. Ball 2. Gonzalez signed his first professional contract. He was 16 years old and couldn't speak English and was sent from the Dominican to the United States. Imagine how difficult that must have been. 2-2.
That was a good fastball. That one was right by him on the inside part of the plate. When you pitch in there, you open up the entire plate. Make the curveball on the outside part effective. What a good pitch.
3-2 the count to Jose Gonzalez. Mike Socia on deck. Reds lead 2-0, top of the 2nd inning. Out away.
Took a little off, a little batting practice fastball on the 3-2 pitch after that one real fine fastball where they popped inside. Great things about changing speeds. You'll get a hitter just a little bit out in front, and on the 3-2 pitch, Gonzalez was still looking for that good fastball, and he got the BP fastball.
That one he's laid on a good fastball and hits it foul, so we're still 3-2.
It's a funny situation. Burgess is kind of playing it defensively. He doesn't want to walk, and the hitter is at the plate. He doesn't want to strike out. So we're playing who can be the best defense here.
3-2. 2 down, 2nd inning. Walked him. Just missed. Came in inside with the fastball, and that'll bring up Mike Scioscia. That's a lot of pitches for him, especially for a guy who's got to get by basically with control.
That's exactly right. On a day that's hot, and a fellow that is the longest stint that he has had has been 3 innings. And the middle man, the long relief man.
Well, he's made 20 pitches this inning. Fernando made 29 in the first inning. You don't expect either man to be around pitching that way very long.
I wouldn't think that Pete would want more than 5, maybe 6 out of Burgess, depending on the number of pitches that he has thrown.
1 ball and no strikes. The Dodgers, a very tough team to figure out anyway. They are so inconsistent. And one of the things is the way they have played against left-hand starters. At home against left-hand starters, the Dodgers are 10-3. On the road, almost the reverse. 3 wins and 9 losses. Now, how do you figure that?
I don't know. I look at a lot of those Dodger numbers, and they're tough to figure out. There's a ball club that they got the best earned run average in the major leagues. They've scored the fewest runs of anybody in the major leagues.
The Dodgers have the lowest batting average, and yet they are tied for second for most men left on base. So it's really a tough club.
They're hitting about 200 with men in scoring position.
2-0. Foul ball. What was it Winston Churchill said about Soviet Russia? He said something to the effect there, an enigma wrapped up in a conundrum, or a conundrum wrapped up in an enigma. But that's really, when you look at the Dodger numbers, they're that confusing. And one other thing, they could be the first team in history to win the World Series and be least in runs produced the following year. And why?
You know, I have a sneaky suspicion they're going to be back in this thing. Anytime you have the kind of starting pitchers the Dodgers have, they're never going to have extended losing streaks. Granted, they don't have the offensive power. They're never really going to put it together a long winning streak either. They're going to flounder around that 500 mark. But if Tudor comes back, and they can trade either Belcher or Leary to get themselves a hitter, they've got to get some offensive pop in the middle of that lineup.
Slicing foul down the line and out of play.
If Marshall comes back, if they go get a hitter, they can help Murray, they can help Gibson. Everybody is jumping on Murray. Is it a fact that nobody is around him to help him? There's nobody behind him. Is he swinging at too many bad pitches? I don't know. You see him a lot more than I do.
Well, I think what they're doing, too, they look in the book and they say, hey, look at these numbers for Eddie Murray. You telling me he can't hit? Look at this guy. Look what you telling me he can't hit?
Or is it a combination of all those things? Plus, he's trying to learn a new league as well. That might be another issue.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out to Mike Scioscia. We're in the top of the second inning, and the Reds leading the Dodgers 2-0. Gonzalez and Gibson would put on quite a race. That's how fast Gonzalez runs. Oral Hershiser pitches tomorrow. The Reds have beaten him twice this year. He's 8-6. He'll go against another left-hander, Tom Browning. Couldn't get enough on the throw because he had straddled the rubber, but that was a pretty good move.
That's one of the luxuries a left-hander has. That's a good move by Burgess. The umpire at first, Gary Darling, right on top of it. Just made it.
Scioscia's still up there, 2 balls and 2 strikes. And you can see Burgess now, he's expending a lot of energy in this heat and humidity. Burgess is from Michigan, so the heat could very well get him. Chopper to the right side in the hole, and Gonzalez just keeps on going to third. The point being that Fernando from Mexico might be able to tolerate the heat a little better.
I've seen a couple instances of the artificial surface and what a difference it's made in the game already. There's a ball that Scioscia just pounded down into the ground. The other one was on Youngblood's ball to right field that bounced over Duncan's head, and that's an artificial surface single right there.
Alfredo Griffin has an 8-game hitting streak, and he is swinging the bat better right now than at any time since he put on a Dodger uniform. For the first time, he is swinging the bat the way he obviously swung it in the past over in the American League. He's hitting almost 260 as a right-handed batter now, and he has his average up to a high water mark for him as a Dodger, 250. 0-1. Oh, it jammed him. He just did get a piece. 0-2.
Of course, he has been on the recovery road after being hit last year. Dwight Gooden hit him on the right hand, and it just takes a long time to fully recover. Get your bat speed back. Talking to Carlton Fisk, Pudge, we saw a note on him passing Yogi Berra with his 307th home run, and he is recovering from a broken hand, a bone in his hand as well, and he said it just takes a long, long time.
There goes Scioscia, and the ball is hit up the middle and kicked into left field. Scioscia could score. Scioscia is on his way to score. Lenny Harris could not come up with the ball and then compounded it by kicking the ball away. And the Dodgers have come up with 2 to get even. 2-2. It'll be a double for Alfredo Griffin. That means he is hitting 9 straight. We'll take another look at it.
See another instance of the artificial surface played directly in the rows of both the runs. The ball off of Lenny Harris, and it just continued to roll on the artificial surface. Youngblood had come all the way over to back up second. There was nobody near the ball, and Scioscia didn't even stop. There was no need for him to stop. Nobody was near the baseball.
So Lenny Harris kicks one into left field, and the Dodgers have tied it up, and here's Fernando. Fernando has fallen away with the bat. Just one hit. Tim Leary won the Silver Bat Award last year for his position. He led National League pitchers in hitting, and Leary has just one hit in 28 at-bats. So in the poor offense this year, even those pitchers who normally hit fairly well are not hitting a lick.
You wouldn't have believed it during batting practice. I sat here and watched Fernando take BP. He had about 4 balls out in a row down there.
Well, the Sword has used him several times as a pinch hitter. But there you can see the stat that tells you what's been going on. It's catching. 0-2 to Fernando. 2-2 tie in the second inning. Kind of a protective swing, borderline pitch up and away. So Rose got 2. Now Rose sees the Dodgers come back to even it up. Boy, you know you're in Cincinnati. I mean, it wipes everything else off the pages. Not sports page, front page.
Front page, everything.
And that's going to be hit inside third and down the line. Griffin will score. Fernando goes to second. The ball gets away from Youngblood. And now Fernando to third. He is safe. What a weird inning. It'll be a double and an error charge to Joel Youngblood.
No play at third for Sabo, just inside the line, but now this ball, when it gets by Youngblood, watch it roll across this carpet. Every one of the runs have been scored. We've had 5 here today. All of them, the surface of this Riverfront Stadium has played a part in the scoring of every run. Fernando chugging to third, just got in. I think he was a little bit uncertain whether he was going to slide or stand up. But this surface on this ballpark has had a say in every one of the runs that have been scored so far in the game, just in the top of the second inning, and it's 3-2, 5 runs already.
And you know, Burgess now by count has made 50 pitches, and here's a fellow who is a relief pitcher. He probably hasn't made 50 pitches at any one stint this year.
34 pitches in 1 inning. You got an average around 14 pitches per inning. That might be an average.
So Fernando doubles, takes third on the error. The Dodgers take a 3-2 lead, and we're only in the top of the second. And here's Mariano Duncan. He struck out in the first inning, called out on strikes. 4.5 games behind San Francisco. The Dodgers 8.5 games behind San Francisco. And the Giants are in San Diego. Giants have won 6 straight, 8 out of 10. And they're in a strong position. Houston trails by 4. And that's a shot into right center field. That gets Fernando in. And Mariano Duncan, a hot hitter with men in scoring position, and drives in Fernando. Duncan's 8th RBI. Rolando Rooms had to climb a ladder to handle that bounce.
That ball was really scorched. Duncan hit that ball awfully hard. Rooms, a good athlete in center field. You just have to protect against the big high bounce off this artificial surface.
It's interesting, too. In the first inning, Fernando had 2 out. Almost got the 3rd out on O'Neill's ground ball. Didn't, and wound up giving 2. Here's Burtsis. He got the first 2 out. And now he can't get the 3rd out. And Mike Griffin, who has kicked around quite a while, just called up, will begin to loosen up.
Part of Burt's problem, too. He got the first 2 outs in this inning, remember?
Yeah.
And then 3-2 to Gonzalez and base on balls. An ugly word for a pitcher, base on balls.
And then gave up the base hit to the left-hand hitter Socia. And then strange things happened. Griffin doubled on Lenny Harris' toe. And Fernando doubled over third. That's popped up. And it'll be Sabo. So the Dodgers wind up enjoying quite an inning. They pick up 4, and at the end of an inning and a half, 4-2 Los Angeles. Bottom of the second inning, Dodgers 4, Reds 2. This telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Bo Diaz, Tim Burtsis, and Lenny Harris in the second inning. Now, Fernando, remember, made 29 pitches in the first inning and then had to go all the way to third, and we'll see if he has any after effects. Scroogey, ball 1.
A lot of times when that happens early in the game, it's beneficial, too. Take some of the butterflies out, some of the nervous edge off.
It could be being a little tired. It would help his screwball.
Exactly right. Don't try to overthrow the ball. Get your legs into the delivery. Slows you down just a touch.
Screwball banged into left field. So I think maybe we ought to fasten our seatbelts today. This is liable to be like a fat man's picnic. We'll put a keg of beer at first and let them play. Here's Tim Burtsis. 4 runs and 4 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Reds. 2 errors in the game, and we're in the second inning. You see if they have Burtsis bunting to stay out of the double play. He shows bunt. Ball 1. Lenny Harris on deck. In the air, they have a double play. Willie Randolph is right there to handle a throw. He's just looking it up. Burtsis, to my knowledge, that was his first at bat. And it's been a while, I'm sure, since he's been asked to do anything with the wood.
Murray makes a good play in the ball, charging very hard for first base. Diaz at first, who does not run well, was trying to get a good jump. Very difficult to bunt effectively on this artificial surface. The ball will get to the infielders much quicker than it will do on grass. And Diaz just does not run well and was cheating a little bit, trying to get as big a jump as he possibly could toward second.
1-1 to Lenny Harris. He singled to right and was picked off in the first inning, trying to get a jump for a hit-and-run play. And then he kicked Alfredo Griffin's ground ball for a double. He hits this to Gonzalez. And order has been restored. At the end of 2 innings, Dodgers 4, Reds 2, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Tom, when you come to Riverfront Stadium, there are two things that certainly come to my mind: a no-hitter and your 3,000th strikeout.
A couple of great days I had here, Benny. One no-hitter that I had my entire career, and 3,000 strikeout against Keith Hernandez, pretty good hitter.
Talking about pretty good hitter, there's a long out to right field and a dazzling catch on the warning track. Paul O'Neill making the flying catch, picking it off on the dead run. And Kirk Gibson hitting it a long way for a long out.
Well, it sure looks like he is limping still, Benny, doesn't it?
Especially now, this second day of AstroTurf.
Yep. Did you notice how I got Keith Hernandez's name on there? On that 3,000 strikeout? Because every time I see him in New York, he says it was a backup slider. It wasn't a good pitch. It wasn't a good pitch. And it wasn't a good pitch. It was a backup slider. He needles me all the time. I had to give him a little needle back.
Eddie Murray flied to center in the second inning. For whatever reason, he has been shut down. Last year, he really picked up after a slow start, and the Dodgers are hoping that somehow he'll repeat that. To give you an idea, last year, in his home runs and RBIs, after a very slow April and May, he exploded. Foul back. He had 7 home runs in June, 7 home runs in July, 7 home runs in August. 53 of his RBIs came during that same period. And Lasorda is hoping upon hope that Murray will do a turnaround, and right around now. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Little foul off first, down the line and out of play.
Certainly learning the new league is something that Murray is going to have to go through. He's going into the, well, let's say we're into the second third of the season, so he has seen most of the pitching. The one question you hear, the one phrase you hear is bat speed. People are not seeing the kind of bat speed that they're used to from Eddie Murray.
Fastball fouled away.
Late on that. That's exactly what we're talking about. Burgess, who is not an overpowering pitcher. And Murray sitting with a 2-2 count. And not getting the bat head out front on the fastball.
3-2 the count. 1 out in the third inning. Dodgers 4, Reds 2. Well, if you Murray 3-2 with Hamilton on deck, figure he's looking fastball.
You better believe you're looking fastball. Got to.
And he walked him. We mentioned your no-hitter, Tom, in 1978 here at Riverfront. We have a moment. Maybe we can bring back a memory for you. There you are, June the 16th.
Elrod Hendricks. And it really was not one of my, let's say, top 10 games that I feel I ever pitched. Every ball that was hit hard was right at somebody. Great plays by Ray Knight, you saw him there, and Joe Morgan. Good defensive plays.
Danny Dreesen playing first.
Danny Dreesen. Figure 20 years, you go out there 20 years, about 35 times in a year. Sooner or later, somebody's got to catch them all, you know.
You would say.
Somewhere along the line. I wasn't like Mr. Koufax or Mr. Ryan.
I was just looking at that pitch. Could we, I don't know if we taped that pitch or not, watch Diaz. I'm not sure if that was a pitch out or not, but he was unhappy because it was low. He was out of position. He could not have made a throw. So he was gesturing to Burgess. And that's hit up the middle for a base hit. And Murray will stop at second. Just let's watch Diaz for a minute and see whether the Reds are actually thinking about a possible hit and run play, because there's no speed involved, Murray and Hamilton. See him. And see the way he caught the ball with his palm down?
Definitely.
That's not the way to catch.
No, that was a pitch out.
So,
Burgess just threw it down by his knees, and that pitch supposed to be shoulder high is right.
I thought he missed a sign there, so it made it very tough on Diaz, and he let out a holler to Burgess.
He didn't miss a sign. He just made a bad pitch. I mean, a pitcher in that situation is supposed to be able to throw it shoulder high. I mean, there was no steal, certainly. Murray's not going to be running that situation, but a hit and run, yes.
Yeah, so Diaz out there talking to him now. As soon as he caught that ball as awkwardly as he did, as you look at Mike Griffin, immediately Diaz threw his hands up over his head as if to say, get the pitch up when I'm calling pitch out. Now Scott Breeden is going out to the mound. Remember, Burgess, as big as he is, has made maybe more pitches today than he has had he's made 67 pitches. And in his relief assignments, he hasn't made 67 pitches. And he's only in the third inning, and he's history. So Burgess is going to come out. And, you know, it could be in messing up that pitch out. It was a sure sign of fatigue.
Could be.
Yep. So they, as DeRocha used to say, stick a fork in him. He's done. And Tim will have to come out. It's 4-2 Dodgers with one out in the third. This relief break brought to you by Rolaids, and here's a look at this week's American and National League leaders in the standings for the Rolaids Relief Man Awards. And you know what's interesting? The two top relievers in the National League are left-handed, Mark Davis and John Franco. And the two top relief men in the American League, Jeff Russell and Dennis Eckersley, and they're both right-handed. We'll be tracking total points awarded on the basis of wins, lost saves, and blown saves all year. Here is Mike Griffin, acquired from Nashville when they gave Davy Collins his release. One ball and no strikes. Griffin has bounced around a great deal in his career. He's played with the Yankees and the Cubs and the Padres and the Orioles. Slider fouled away, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Jose Gonzalez walked in the second inning. Eddie Murray at second, Jeff Hamilton at first with 1 out. Popped in the air, foul off to the right. Diaz coming over. Voices in the background. That was the Cincinnati dugout hollering, all right, all right. So he knew he had room. What's it like to be a catcher? Here he comes.
And you're running right toward the photographer's area, too. Lots of camera, lots of equipment right over there. The catcher will get a lot of help from the bench telling him he's okay, he's okay, he's okay. Get all the help you can get over there.
2 on and 2 out in the third. And here's Mike Scioscia, who singled against Burgess in the second inning. Fastball missed. 1-0. Remember, the inning began when Gibson took Burgess deep to right center, and Paul O'Neill made a great catch. 1-0. Strike.
Our pitcher's odd creatures. Here is 90-plus degrees, and Fernando is on the bench over there with a jacket on his arm. I mean, down in the field, it's got to be close to 100 down there. Fernando has that arm covered.
You know, I would think you could be almost neurotic and paranoid about your arm. I mean, your entire livelihood depends on the health of your arm.
You're darn right.
Did you find that you were overly protective about your arm? You wouldn't touch a suitcase with your right arm?
I wouldn't call it overly protective, but I certainly was conscious of it. You know, I'm talking about Fernando over there in the dugout. One of the things I used to do when I played in this ballpark was go down in the runway. The runways off the end of the dugout that go back to the clubhouses, and it's lower. It's dug down in. And it's cool down in there. You can wear that jacket on your arm, but you can get some nice, fresh, cool air.
The drive to Rolando Room. And the Dodgers, no runs, 1 hit, and 2 left. So we have struggled for 2.5 innings. And the Dodgers lead 4-2. Here are the division leaders as of this date this year. Interesting to compare what happened to them this year as opposed to last year. And there is a great change for the Baltimore Orioles. You know, since World War II, only 13 major league teams have improved by 25 to 30 wins in one season. 5 have done it since the start of divisional play. And the Orioles are on a pace to win 94 games, and they won only 54 last year. So could you imagine if the Orioles improved by 40 games from one year to the next? That would really be a story. Todd Benzinger, Barry Larkin, and Paul O'Neill in that order. Foul back. Dodgers 4, Reds 2. We're only in the bottom of the third. Scroogie in the dirt, 1 and 2.
Pete Rose would like to get more production out of Benzinger. Hitting in front of Larkin. Larkin really not a number 3 hitter. It's not enough power to hit number 3. And for him to be effective, Larkin will hit a lot of doubles. For him to be effective, the 1 and 2 hitters, normally it's Sabo. But Benzinger, Pete would like him to have a higher on-base percentage, get more base hits. He's hitting the .251 coming in here today.
You know, the thing with Pete about Barry Larkin, since he put Larkin in the 3 slot, Larkin's hitting over 400. It's pretty hard to move him out of there, even though he doesn't give you a lot of socks.
And that's Eric Davis when Eric Davis is normally hitting behind him, and that has an effect.
Fernando working on Benzinger, Larkin, O'Neill to follow. In the dirt again. 3 and 2.
You know, we're talking about having players hit behind certain hitters and the effect that it has. Davis behind Larkin. And you wonder if there's not a connection here between Willie Randolph, Steve Sachs, and Ricky Henderson. And we talked about Willie Randolph going to the number 2 position.
Fouled away.
Expand on that. One of the criticisms that Ricky Henderson got in New York that he was not running enough. Well, the hitter hitting behind him was Steve Sachs, who was a dead first ball, high ball, fastball hitter, and not a patient hitter. And the man you're looking at on your screen right now, one of the most patient hitters in baseball. He hit behind Ricky Henderson last year. So is the trade of Ricky Henderson going to the Oakland Athletics from the Yankees a result of an off-season trade that Steinbrenner made, and getting Steve Sachs for signing him as a free agent? You know, it's amazing, the little things in this game. If Willie Randolph were there in New York, probably Ricky Henderson would not be with the Oakland A's right now.
Red Sox leading Minnesota. Kevin Romine had an RBI single. Interesting, John Dobson is pitching in that game. The last note I had on Dobson, his team had 11 balks, and he had committed 10 of them. One ball and 1 strike. The count to Barry Larkin. He's checking with Davey Bristol.
I think he's a slow learner, or is it one umpire that's mad at him? What is it?
11 balks. 11 this year. Imagine they went up last year.
Last year, it would have been 3 times that.
Barry Larkin hitting .404 against left-handers this year. He walked in the first inning. It's 4-2 Dodgers in the third. Todd Benzinger held on by Eddie Murray. There's a little connection over there at first base. Eddie Murray and Lee May. Lee May, the first base coach for the Reds. There they are. They were teammates at Baltimore. Down goes Barry Larkin. That's something he doesn't do very often, strike out.
Larkin has a very short stroke. You can see it's just a contact type of swing. You don't even see him usually swing that big with 2 strikes. He is more of a contact hitter, especially when he has 2 strikes. But that was a big swing he had.
Paul O'Neill has not done much against left-hand pitching this year, and this time he hits it to Randolph, who has to get the easy out. Once he juggled, he lost the chance of a double play. 4-3 on the play. Benzinger advances to second, and with 2 down, Joel Youngblood will be coming up.
I think Willie was just a little bit concerned about Benzinger, who got a good jump going to second, and he rushed it, trying to get Griffin the ball, but good hustle by Benzinger. And actually forced Randolph into mishandling the ball and going to first base. Ends up in scoring position.
Randolph has played so well this year, and Willie has only committed 3 errors. Of course, you know and I know that he should have at least gotten a force play, and he certainly knows he should have gotten a force play. Now, if the run scores, it will be charged as earned, and that's a definite flaw in the scoring system. 0-1.
How about the double by Youngblood in the first inning? Is that not a flaw in the scoring system? That was a broken bat. I know.
How about the kick by the second baseman, Lenny Harris, who kicked the ball into left field?
Didn't give it an error.
0-1 to Bubba, as they call Joel Youngblood. One and one to count. 4-2 Dodgers, 3rd inning. Youngblood with Chris Sabo hitting back of him on deck.
Youngblood playing because certainly the left-hander throwing today. One of the things about Pete Rose in this ball club, he is basically on the field a young ball club. Young players, and he put his veterans on the bench. Kenny Griffey, Dave Collins, who was just relief, and Youngblood, all of them with at least 13 years of experience. So when he called on those guys on the bench and knew exactly what they had to do, could teach these young players as the season goes along, point certain things out to them. And then you know when you went to the bench that you had the experience of putting somebody into a certain situation, and they would know what to do. All 3 of them very good veteran players.
Line drive, base hit. Charging it is Gibson. They are sending Benzinger in, and the throw will go to second. So there is that flaw in the scoring where Randolph did not get a force play and should have. And the Reds cash it in. No error. It's an earned run. But everybody in the world knows that there should not be a run. Yes.
Gibson, who just really, to put it bluntly, cannot throw. There's no chance to get Benzinger at home plate. Talked about Youngblood liking the ball from the middle in, and there was a fastball that Fernando tried to get on the inside part of the plate, maybe a little cutter, and he just ripped it to left.
Screwball is pulled, and Hamilton short hops, and that's that. So because of the force play missed at second, the Reds get a run, and it's a big one now. It tightens up the game. And at the end of 3, 4-3 Dodgers. That's baseball's answer to hockey's hat trick.
Is that a golden sombrero he had?
It sure was a Panama.
I don't think we'll see a golden sombrero today.
Alfredo Griffin, Fernando Valenzuela, and Mariano Duncan against Mike Griffin. 1 ball and no strikes to count. Alfredo hit the ball up the middle. Lenny Harris could not come up with it, then kicked it into left field, and it was ruled a double. So he has hit in 9 straight. Two balls and no strikes.
Fernando in the on-deck circle, and he has discarded his jacket.
You know, that was one of those minor rules, but on a day like today, it's important to enforce it. In the old days, and it's not that many years ago, the pitcher never stood in the on-deck circle. The leadoff man always stood in the on-deck circle, and the pitcher stayed in the dugout and got a little extra rest. But baseball changed the rules, and the pitcher now stands out there, and sometimes I'm sure he would give anything to be sitting down. But it's the rule.
You get down to about the 7th or 8th inning. Yeah, a little rest over there, a little rest for the weary. And you have to have somebody out there. You have to have a player on the on-deck circle.
And now it has to be the pitcher.
It has to be the player.
Yeah,
that's right. You
can't put the leadoff man out there.
I mean, it's not an option. It's not an option to be in the dugout or the on-deck circle. It's a mandatory.
There was a great old Noel Coward song, Mad Dogs and Englishmen Go Out in the Noonday Sun. Well, now it's Mad Dogs and Englishmen and pitchers. Foul ball. Still 2-2. We're in the 4th. Dodgers 4, Reds 3. Griffin, Valenzuela, and Duncan. Mike Griffin, 32 years old. Picking up a big Tim Burgess. Three and two.
Griffin made a comment about typical every veteran ball player. He said, I wish I knew 10 years ago what I know now about this game.
He has really paid a price. And so has Alfredo Griffin. One down. Friends, we have a moment. I'd like to remind you about tomorrow. NBC Sports previews a grand spectacle. Wimbledon, the crown jewel of tennis. There'll be a probing feature on John McEnroe. There'll be an interview with Chrissy Everett, a revealing look at how winning the French Open has changed the life of 17-year-old Michael Chang. Wimbledon, the crown jewel of the Grand Slam. Strawberries and cream tomorrow on NBC. Ground ball in the hole, and Fernando's going to be running the bases again as he singles to right. In talking about tomorrow and about Wimbledon, a reminder, NBC has been covering closely all of the developments of the Pete Rose case. And the judgment as the result of the hearing tomorrow is due here in Cincinnati at noon. And NBC's Bob Jamieson will be right there. And then we'll find out.
Or they have closed this ballpark down as far as the media is concerned. They have it roped off. You can't go on the bench. The clubhouses are closed. There is no access to Pete Rose whatsoever. Jim Ferguson is the head of publicity here for the Cincinnati Reds, and he has really just shut it down, shut everything off for the entire weekend.
I think he's done a fine job in doing just that. It had to happen, otherwise it's a circus.
He's had a lot of experience, too, especially with Pete here as a player and all the things that had to be covered as a player.
Duncan hits one into left center for a base hit, and Fernando looks and starts to go to third, and he is going to be in there. And into second base goes Mariano. The reason Fernando took the extra base, he stuttered at second base because he was watching Rooms, and he saw Rooms playing it tentatively. Rooms was afraid the ball was going to bounce over his head. And as soon as you spot an outfielder on the defensive, bingo, take the extra base. Here's Rooms watching. He's shying away like that's a rattlesnake.
Fernando got down to second and hesitated, and then looked down to Joey Amalfitano, the third base coach, to see, should I go? Should I not go? Joey gave him the green light, and he came to third. So Fernando been doing his share of running here today. A bad play in the outfield by the Reds. Real bad play in the outfield. Duncan getting to second base on the overthrow by Rooms, missing the cutoff man Larkin. And instead of runners at first and third, where you still have a double play in order, with 2 men in scoring position.
Willie Randolph struck out and fouled out. Willie is 0 for 2, batting .294. What it points up to today, when you look at Joel Youngblood in left field and Rolando Rooms in center, the Reds are not at their finest. Remember, normally Cal Daniels plays left and Eric Davis plays center. There's a tremendous fall-off out there, defensively as well as offensively. Daniels out now, the latest with a sprained ankle, and Davis still bothered with the cyst on the hamstring. Daniels has missed 43 games already.
Now, he had arthroscopic surgery on his knee. Was out almost 6 weeks for that. And he came back and played a couple of games and boom, strained his ankle.
Davis has missed 18 games, and really a little more than that because in 2 games he only made pinch hit appearances. 1-2 the count to Randolph with 1 out, and the left-hand hitting Kirk Gibson on deck. 4-3 Dodgers, top of the 4th inning. There's Cal Daniels, and all he can do is sit and wait and watch. Breaking ball hit to straightaway center. Tagging is Fernando. And Rooms is going to get off the throw to the plate, and Fernando scores. So Fernando has doubled and taken third on an error and scored on a single. He goes from first to third on a single and then comes home on a fly ball.
Rooms did not quite get behind the ball enough. Missing 1 step. He tried to put together that catch and throw in the outfield as an outfielder. And the throw way off the mark to the right. You wonder what would have happened had Eric Davis been in center field in that situation. Fernando may not have gotten more than 3 steps off a third and gone back.
Here's Gibson, and in the Dodger dugout with Bill Buehler and Charlie Strasser and Pat Screener. They've all paid Fernando a visit. Strasser spraying him with water and Buehler toweling him off like a couple of corner men at a fight.
They're saying, come on, go 2 more rounds and we'll get you out of there.
That's exactly. And Gibson hits one into left field for a base hit, and here comes the run. So the Dodgers, against Burgess and now Griffin, have scored a half a dozen runs. The biggest outpour of runs the Dodgers have enjoyed in quite a while was in a recent Red Series at Dodger Stadium when they scored 9. And they're taking advantage of Burgess and now Griffin today.
You know, it's funny watching the Dodgers last night. 7 hits in 2 innings. They got 1 run. 10 hits they got on the evening. And then all of a sudden here, everything falling in. 6 runs in just the 4 innings so far.
If you compared the 2 teams, you know, this is the 12th meeting as we see Gibson go and steal second base. And for Gibson now, he's stolen 11 out of 13.
Diaz has thrown out only 16% of the runners that have tried for second and third on him. 4 of 25. Gibson got a great jump. Of course, he does have great speed. Looks like he's changed his hairstyle too, Vinny.
Huh? Maybe.
Changing the image.
So they'll take the bat out of Eddie Murray's hands and walk him intentionally, and it'll bring up Jeff Hamilton in a moment. The Dodgers no longer a team that lives by the stolen base. So Gibson has 11, and in a moment Hamilton will be coming up. We were talking before about if you compare these 2 teams, they played each other 11 times, and the Reds have won 6. The Reds have a little bit higher batting average than the Dodgers. The Dodgers had scored more runs. The starting staff for the Reds had a little bit better earned run average than the Dodgers staff going against the Reds. And the biggest difference would really surprise you, and it's the bullpen. That's popped in the air foul. Benzinger coming over. The bullpen's going into last night's game. The Cincinnati bullpen against the Dodgers had an earned run average of over 5. The Dodger bullpen against the Reds, an ERA of 1. And we're really looking at the bullpen today. Mike Griffin, the Cincinnati pitcher, is due up third in the bottom of the fourth inning. Rose certainly thinking hitter, so he gets Kent Colby up. And look at those numbers. You talk about a veteran pitcher. Colby hot on the heels of Hoyt Wilhelm. Meanwhile, Fernando hot on his own heels. He's been running and pitching and scoring, and he's leading 6-3.
Sliding. Wow. Getting help from his friends on the bench. Trying to resuscitate him.
0-1. Good screwball. 0-2. There was a definite misconception about Fernando when he first came up to the league. People looked at him and didn't believe it, and they just felt he wasn't in shape. Believe me, he's in shape. He's like any good player who ever played this game. He is strong. Right.
What's deceptive about him, he has those Babe Ruth kind of legs, those spindly little legs and a big upper body. He's very thick-chested.
Talking about Fernando, NBC Sports World has 8 world-class athletes battling themselves in nature when they take on Canada's rugged Alberta Rockies in Sports World's 10th Survival of the Fittest, plus coverage of the Arnold Schwarzenegger Bodybuilding Classic, hosted by none other than the Terminator himself. That's tomorrow on NBC Sports World. Bo Diaz, single to left in the second inning. No surprise considering his past success against Fernando. So the boy from Mexico pitching to the boy from Venezuela. 0-2. Bob Shepard, the public address announcer, and a fine one at Yankee Stadium, wrote a poem about Spanish names and about the joy he gets in rolling off the syllables. It's kind of clever. Did you ever see that poem that he wrote? No. So with Valenzuela and Diaz, maybe we can work it in. It's 6-3 Dodgers. We're in the fourth inning. Goes, there are certain names that go over well, like Pena, Ramos, and Carrascal, with liquid sounds so panoramic, and strangely, they are all Hispanic. Aurelio, Hippolito, Cecilio, Domingo have a lovelier sound than American lingo. What native name could I ever tell so musically as Valdivielso? And no native name could ever show us the splendor of Salome Baroja. Bob Shepard's poetry on Spanish names. 1-2. Foul ball.
Those who have never heard Bob Shepard, the PA announcer at Yankee Stadium, have really missed him. I mean, it is one of the great voices of all time.
Wonderful.
Perfect diction, perfect enunciation.
The Olivier sports PA announcer. Fly ball to left field, and Kirk Gibson. Boy, that ball carried. We were talking before about balls carrying. That was a classic example. Diaz actually reached out for it, and Gibson instinctively, his first step was to come in, and he wound up catching it right near the wall in left field.
On a ball that was down and away, and he just reached out and flipped his hands at it. Gibson ended up catching that ball right at the edge of the warning track. Here you see the ball. Look where that ball is. Almost like he golfs it. Not a strong hitter, but that is an indication of how the ball carries during the daytime here.
And now Mike Griffin gets in the act with a base hit to center. So a two-out single. Had somebody gotten on base, you knew Rose was thinking hitter as soon as the first two batters went out. Why, Jacoby stopped throwing and Griffin stays in, and now the batter is Lenny Harris, who is single to right and fly to center. He's 1 for 2.
And Griffin hit, and it could be more of a matter of the limited number of players that Pete has to use on the bench, healthy players, as opposed to how far and deep he wants to get into his pitching staff. Some people on that bench that can't play because of injuries.
0-1 the count to Lenny Harris. Dodgers scored 4 in the second and 2 in the fourth. The Reds scored 2 in the first and 1 in the third. And the Dodgers leading Rose and company 6-3. and 1 strike. 6 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. 3 runs, 6 hits, 1 error for the Reds. There's a little fluker into center field for a base hit. And Mike Harris will go to third. So a couple of men aboard, and Harris sounded like he hit that with the Cincinnati Enquirer. It just dead sound.
There have been some funny hits in this game already. I mean, some real floppers. That one looked like another broken bat face hit.
So Harris at first, Griffin at third, and now Todd Benzinger comes up representing the tying run, and Pernoski down in the corner looking and thinking. No telephone necessary here because you have a lengthy dugout right alongside the bullpen.
You think this is the kind of game that Yogi had in mind when he said it ain't over till it's over?
And how? Ball 1. Remember that T-shirt they used to wear in the front? It would say, it ain't over till it's over, and then the guy would walk away, and on the back of the T-shirt it would say, it's over.
He's still walking toward us.
1-0. Right. I would think in this heat, and especially since he's been running around the bases, some of the Reds might very well make Fernando throw a strike.
Situation, you know, he's thrown a lot of pitches already. It is certainly something that veteran players would do. Whether Pete would put on the take sign or not, I don't know.
Ricky Horton is going down to the Dodger bullpen, and Tim Cruz will join him. So the Dodgers are going to back up Fernando a little bit, just in case he is running out of petrol. It doesn't take too much to have your needle hit empty on a day like today in Cincinnati.
Benzinger just sitting on the fastball there, and Fernando turned one over. Hard screwball.
A lot of pitches to be in the 4th inning. Griffin at third, Harris at first. And Benzinger still up there. Benzinger struck out, walked, and came around and scored a run. Remember when Randolph fumbled and missed the force play? The Reds cashed it in.
Benzinger with 2 strikes on him. A big hole between Randolph and Murray over on the right side. He tried to go there on that last pitch.
Well, a slide edge now. The edge to Harris, who runs well anyway. A full count and 2 down. Murray is going to stay on the bag, so Lee May over to tell Harris to be careful. Of course, Harris doesn't have to be reminded. It was only in the 1st inning when Fernando picked him off. And now Murray's off the bag.
I couldn't believe he was staying there. I couldn't believe he was going to be on first base.
3-2 with Larkin on deck. And it's popped in the air. Randolph will make the play, and that's a big out. The last man Fernando wanted to see with the bases loaded was Barry Larkin. So he got his man, and the inning is over. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. It comes to mind when you come here. You say Riverfront Stadium. You say word association. What do you think?
I tell you, the word association is how difficult that big red machine with Johnny Bench and Morgan and Griffey and Foster and Tony Perez, how tough they were, and almost impossible to beat on this surface in this ballpark. I mean, they were really tough. A good, great ball club.
There's a big story here in Cincinnati, not the one with Pete Rose. The city is just waiting for Johnny Bench to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yep, 2 of them going in, and well-deserved. Bench and Carl Yastrzemski, 2 of the all-time greats.
But, of course, John has something even more important in his lifetime that will occur this year. Never mind the Hall of Fame.
Yes, he does.
His wife, Lori, is expecting their first child.
Right about December, and old JB is going to be a daddy.
That's more important than any Hall of Fame. Line drive base hit for Jose Gonzalez to open up matters in the 5th inning. So a leadoff single will bring up Mike Scioscia. Boy, we've had 16 hits in 4 innings. Plus.
You took my line. That's exactly what I was looking at. I said, gee, we're in the 5th inning. Now, I wonder how many hits we got so far.
Wow.
Amazing. 9 by the Dodgers. The ball club has scored the fewest runs in the major leagues this year.
Remember that note we were talking about earlier about how the Dodgers, with the lowest batting average, scoring barely at all, and yet with all the opportunity, they were tied for second for the most men left on base. Griffin having a little huddle with Bo Diaz as a newcomer to the team, probably having a little trouble with signs. When you were starting to move around, did you have any problems going to Boston, going to Chicago?
I took my own signs with me. They said, what kind of signs you guys using? They tell me, and I said, well, these are the ones I'm using.
I'm an independent contractor.
Some clubs will have the same signs for every pitcher. Some clubs will have a set of signs for the starters and some for the relievers. Some ball clubs, depending on the catcher, every pitcher will have a set of signs, different set of signs. I like having the individual pitchers have their own signs, because after a 3-game series or a 4-game series, you know, the runners at second base can begin to tell what pitches, what signals are for what pitches, and you're at a disadvantage if, in fact, they can flash that to the hitter later in a series. But if every pitcher has their own signs, then it's much more difficult for them to pick up.
I think last week I was talking about the fact there was a fight between 2 American League teams where they felt that there were signs being stolen. 1 ball and no strike. That's in there, 1-1. When you were pitching, did you ever have a game where you felt these guys are stealing my signs, they're calling my pitches?
I can't really remember it, man. I know it happens a lot, and it's all right to steal signs, you know, if you do it in an honest way. If you're at second base and you're looking right in at the catcher anyway, if he doesn't have enough intelligence or smarts or savvy or whatever to disguise the signs, then he deserves for them to be stolen. I know we were playing a game against the Houston Astros, and I was playing for the Cincinnati Reds in the Astrodome. The catcher went through a set of signs. Nothing happened. He put the next set of signs, he only put 1 finger down. Fastball. Well, we had a thing where if you put your helmet on at second base and secured it down with your hand to the hitter knew a fastball was coming. David Concepcion was up, and I saw the one sign, the finger go down. That hand went right on the top of my head. There was a double up the left center field alley. I scored easily. That's all part of the game.
1 ball and 1 strike to count to Mike Scioscia. 1-2.
The sign you saw there, Diaz, give fastball outside. Of course, nobody on second. Now, what about, you know, you've heard all the stories about going into Wrigley Field. And they have spies in the scoreboard at Wrigley Field that can flash signs. And
Milwaukee, they used to talk about the bullpen, how they'd have a towel or something to indicate.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And that's the dishonest way to get them.
You know, tomorrow they're going to have an old-timers game here. Some great names out of the past. Little pop fly. Rolando Rooms has to come in a hurry. And back to first goes Gonzalez, 1 out. One of the players, Gene Freeze, and he was talking about how well he used to hit Warren Spahn. Now, Gene Freeze was a solid but yet journeyman player, and Warren Spahn was a Hall of Famer. And Freeze said it was easy. I could call his pitches. And I, how? Well, he said only in a windup, not out of a stretch. But he said in a windup, when Spahn was throwing curveball, his hands would go over his head and just about brush his cap.
Right.
And when he was throwing a fastball, his hands would go high above his. And he said, I just stood there, and every time I saw daylight, I knew it was a fastball. And Del Crandall said, you got to be kidding me. And Freeze said, oh, no. And he just hit away at him. Now, the question is, did you ever have a bad habit that you got into that had to be corrected?
Sure. Much the same about going, how far you get over your head. And knew I would do it sometimes, so I would intentionally not do it or go way back on the curveball as well, or on the fastball as well. So you mix it up. All you got to do is make them think twice one time and then never do it again. What a play at second base.
But safe. Great effort by Lenny Harris. But as we mentioned, Gonzalez runs as fast as anybody the Dodgers have, including Kirk Gibson. And he beat it.
What a play. Boy, if it had not been for the speed of Gonzalez, that would have been one of the plays of the year. Lenny Harris, 9 errors at second base this year, but that was a superstar play right there.
So Lenny Harris, the one thing he did was keep double plays in order, force play at third, because if that ball goes through, Gonzalez goes to third easily. So you have runners at first and second with one out, and Fernando the batter. And Fernando is 2 for 2, a double and a single.
You know, getting back to the pitches, Vinny, when I first came up to the New York Mets, Ed Kranepool and I were talking one day. I was probably in my 3rd or 4th year, and we were out playing the Dodgers, and he started talking about Koufax. And Eddie told me that the New York Mets had Sandy Koufax at his pitches, knew when the curveball was coming, knew when the fastball was coming. And he said, didn't make any difference. So a lot of getting pitches depends on the pitcher.
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll see what Fernando does now. He doubled and singled. Scored twice. And he bunts. Harris will make the play to Benzinger, and everybody will move up 90 feet. So now you have Griffin at second, Gonzalez at third, and Mariano Duncan coming up. The Red Sox leading Minnesota 3-0. A double by Dwight Evans scored Wade Boggs and Mike Greenwell. Kevin Romine knocked in the other, and the Red Sox lead by 3. Another note in the sports world, Sharunas Marciulionis, the first basketball player from the Soviet Union to sign a contract with an NBA team. The 6'5" guard who played on the '88 Soviet Olympic team has signed for 3 years with the Golden State Warriors. Mariano Duncan struck out and then singled twice. Right. Mike Griffin has allowed 6 hits and 2 runs. The Dodgers leading 6-3. Larkin, O'Neill, and Youngblood will be coming up for the Reds in the bottom of the 5th. One and one.
Of course, you hear all the time about how the Dodgers are looking for a leadoff hitter. Glad to have Randolph down at number 2 spot, and you wonder all the screaming about the Dodgers really wanted Lenny Dykstra, who went to Philadelphia.
Well, I know Dykstra was he's from Garden Grove, California, and he was hoping if he was going to be traded, it would be to the Dodgers. But it boils down to who could the Dodgers have traded to the Mets. The Mets don't need pitching.
That's right. That's what the Dodgers have to give. That's right. Funny how the Phillies could have put a double whammy on the Dodgers. Everybody in this National League West, when you think about it. Spent Bedrosian to the Giants.
That's popped up and should be the 3rd out. Barry Larkin will put it away. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left, and at the end of 4 1/2, Dodgers 6 and the Reds 3. Mariano Duncan, who popped up for the last out, felt his hamstring, the left leg apparently tighten on him, and he's hurting and has to come out. It is a typical price you pay for playing on AstroTurf, especially if you have not played a lot, and he was playing right field, and he got it right there, and out he goes. So the Dodgers have to put Gonzalez in right field, and John Shelby goes to center. And Duncan, with the hamstring, is out. And we'll see if we get any further word. Not sure. Sometimes it's just a cramp rather than a pull.
With the heat here, Vinny, a lot of fluids lost by the body, too. You're not used to this real hot weather, and you lose too many fluids. You get a cramp. It's exactly right. Not necessarily be a pull.
Ground ball right to Alfredo. And that'll do it as he almost threw it away. So Larkin is out on a ground ball to short.
Griffin has a terrific arm at shortstop. Only 6 errors he has made all year, but the height of Eddie Murray saved him an error there.
He has a right thumb that is taped. It might have had something to do with a wobbly toss. Also, of course, when you play in the heat, you're playing bare-armed, except for a pitcher. You see the thumb is taped. And the perspiration runs down into the hand, which is exactly why pitchers usually wear long-sleeved undershirts, even in the dog days.
That Band-Aid on his right thumb is from getting jammed. That's where the jam at the plate. Get that ball up the bat, and it just jams the bat right back into the crook of your thumb.
Little fly ball down the right field line, but Gonzalez is there to pick it off. 2 down in the 5th inning. 6-3 in favor of the Dodgers. And Joel Youngblood will be coming up.
Yeah, we were talking before the last inning about how the Phillies doing double duty here maybe against the Dodgers and the Reds. But the Dodgers, who were looking for a center fielder and had their eyes on Dykstra, maybe they could have put a package deal someplace where they would sent somebody to the Mets for him and sent one of their pitchers off. But the Phils, as it is, end up with Dykstra, and they send Bedrosian to San Francisco,
who just has had 3 saves this first week. Well, it was 2 weeks ago we were talking about the fact that this reminded us of 1987 with San Francisco, Cincinnati, and Houston in a pennant race, and Al Rosen making the deal that brought, among others, Rick Russell, and that changed that year, and the Giants won the West. And now this year it's Rosen again making the big move, getting Steve Bedrosian. Hit right back to Fernando. So that's what the doctor ordered on a hot day, especially for a pitcher who has been running the bases as well. A 1-2-3 inning at the end of 5, 6-3 Dodgers. Willie Randolph, Kurt Gibson, and Eddie Murray in that order. Randolph has struck out, fouled out, and had a scoring fly ball. A couple of scores. Dan Gladden hit a home run for Minnesota. The Red Sox leading 3-1. Toronto, Oakland, that's Dave Stieb and Dave Stewart battling that one out. 6-3 Dodgers, top of the 6th inning. Mike Griffin picking up for Tim Burgess, who could not get out of the 3rd inning. After a wild 2nd inning where he got the first 2 hitters, and it unraveled for 4 runs. 1 ball and 1 strike to count to Randolph. This is game 2 of a 4-game series. Tomorrow, Hershiser and Browning, and then Monday, Tim Leary and Rick Mailer. Reds have won 3 out of 4 from the Dodgers here at Riverfront this year. On the scoreboard, talking about pitchers with over 60 shutouts. Walter Johnson, 110. Grover Alexander, 90. Christy Mathewson, 83. Cy Young, 76. Eddie Plank, 64. Warren Spahn, 63. And Tom Seaver, 61 shutouts.
Now tell him what to say.
High chopper to 3rd. Grabbed by Sabo, and Randolph will leg it out.
You're not getting enough. I'm going to make you tell him. You replay or no replay?
I was teasing. I was looking up at the scoreboard. Someone, I said, oh, pitchers who are over 60. Randolph is aboard. What's Sabo doing best on a bad leg.
Another indication, another result of artificial surface. That ball just beaten down in the ground by Randolph. You know, what would normally have been maybe a two-hopper to third base ends up to be a single.
That's 11 hits for the Dodgers. There's a line drive out to first base, not in time. And Randolph lucky he didn't get kicked in the head as Benzinger went over the top to handle that throw. 1 out.
You know, it was great when Randolph went back into the base. He hit the base with his fist, especially being a veteran player. One of the rules when you're on a base, and the first step has to be back on a line drive. If a line drive is hit, first step is back toward the base. You're not going to get the two bases anyway unless the ball goes in the hole. First base, do not get doubled up. Make that first step back toward the base. There's a guy at first base that knows those little rules of the game as well as anybody. He is an intelligent player. You see his first step the other way, and he knows he's exactly going the wrong way. And if that keeps going, you'll see him beat the base, and he'll know that he was wrong. No, he stopped it, but he hit the bag with his right fist.
0-1 to Eddie Murray, who has flied to center and walked twice, once intentionally. Eddie Murray has been walked 48 times, 15 of them intentionally. Of course, for the Dodgers, in spring training, you had Gibson, Murray, Marshall. That's pretty good 1, 2, 3. And Marshall has been out so long now that the attack has really changed. They get one, and they're having trouble getting one. That should have been an easy double play, and the Reds just simply messed it up.
We've seen a couple of double plays booted, not made at least. There Harris gives a high feed to Larkin. It's not necessarily the high feed. It's the juggling act that Harris does before he gets it to Larkin, and Larkin gets across the bag really before he gets the ball. But the second base umpire, Randy Mars, saying that he had touched the base and was in control of the ball, taking it out of the glove. That's why the force out in play at second base.
Boy, that really puts a lot of heat on pitchers, too. When you fail to turn those double plays, you keep giving the extra hitter the opportunity, and sooner or later you get buried. Hamilton struck out, singled, and fouled out, 1 for 3. Certainly one reason why the Dodgers lead the major leagues in earned run average, and one reason why the Giants lead the West. The fact that they're tied in double plays that they've turned. Up the middle, flagged by Harris, and a throw back in time to get Hamilton. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left, and at the end of 5.5, Dodgers 6, Reds 3. I would think these days Pete Rose, win, lose, or draw in the game, hates to have the game end, because at least during the game, it's a little island of sanity for him. It's truly an escape.
Well, I think escape is exactly right, Benny, and it's the part of the game that he absolutely adores. Is on the field. There's a guy that normally goes out during batting practice and will sit there and judge every ball that his hitters hit.
NBC will be here tomorrow for the result of the hearing. Judge Norbert Nadel making the decision tomorrow at noon Cincinnati time, we understand. The decision, of course, is whether to grant the temporary restraining order, the TRO as they call it. We shall see. Don't forget, next week you'll have 2 teams gunning for first place in their respective divisions. The revitalized New York Mets will be here in Cincinnati. Some viewers will see the Pirates and the Dodgers. All starts with Major League Baseball, an inside look next Saturday on NBC. 1 down. Here's Rolando Runes. Flied to left and struck out, 0 for 2.
Fernando's thrown a lot of pitches, but still seems to be throwing the ball hard. 1 wonder how much longer Tommy Lasorda will let him pitch as the 4th hitter next inning. Working here into the bottom of the 6th.
You know, you see this heat and you see Fernando's from Mexico, and you have heard about the Mexican League. There was a note we'll try and duck in about the rigors of the Mexican League. Little roller to third. Hamilton, bare hand, throws with the same motion too late. And Orlando Runes gets an infield single on that chopper to third. And that is the 8th hit for the Reds. Hamilton did everything right, but Runes just legged it out.
I'll tell you, it looked like a throw beat him, but first base umpire Gary Darling just came in for this first full season as an umpire in the major leagues last year. Said that Eddie Murray came off the base. Eddie had to dig it out of the ground and sweep at it. It looked like Darling said that not only did he sweep his glove at it, but pulled his foot off the base as well.
Tim Belcher has gone down to the Dodger bullpen along with Ricky Horton. So Belcher, whom you saw almost get hit by a batted ball, is in the pen. 1 ball and no strikes. I think I have an idea why Belcher, a starting pitcher, is in the bullpen. It is an indication, I think, that within the next few days, the Dodgers might have John Tudor make a start. We're talking about the Mexican League. This is the note. There's a team called the Owls of the two Laredos, and they finished up a Mexican League road trip. Ball 3. First, they bust from Laredo to another city 1,300 miles away. Played a 3-game series, bust 1,300 back to Laredo. Played 2 days, and bust 750 miles to Mexico City. 3 games, bust 600 miles to Monterey. So in 12 days, it was your 3,950-mile bus trip. That's the Mexican League.
They get bonus points for that? Mileage points?
Battle pay.
For a free bus ride.
Gee. 3-1 to Bo Diaz. And a ground ball into left field. And that means Ken Griffey will represent the tying run at the plate with 1 out. Nine hits off Fernando. Hamilton just missed smothering that.
Just missed smothering it, and he was playing back, too. Diaz has not run well. Hamilton playing farther back than he normally would in a double play situation, but with Diaz's speed, he can afford to lay back, especially on this surface. But the ball hit so hard and travels so quickly through the infield on this surface. And Fernando does not like this. He thinks he's out of the game. Ron Perranoski going to the mound.
He has allowed 3 runs and 9 hits. He has gone the required 5, so he can't lose because he'll be going out, if he goes out, with a 3-run lead, and 2 runners his responsibility.
I think going out because Perranoski looking back at the bench to get the sign to see if the pitcher's in the bullpen already. I think that's probably why he was looking back. Get the sign from the dugout whether the guy's in the bullpen already.
Perranoski has left the mound, and Fernando stays in. For those of you who are just joining us, you were watching the Boston-Minnesota game, and we had to leave you because of technical problems. This is a wild one. The Dodgers are leading, but it's kind of like a hanging-on game. Dodgers 6, Reds 3. We've had 20 hits, and we're in the bottom of the 6th inning. Ken Griffey is coming up as a pinch hitter for Mike Griffin. Griffey followed by Lenny Harris. They're going to check at third. Swing, says Ed Montague, and the count 0-1.
Whether the head of that bat went past the front of the plate, Ed Montague says yes, that's all that counts.
One out, runners at first and second, sixth inning. Griffey hitting for the pitcher. And the Dodgers leading the Reds 6-3. Griffey started last night's game and struck out twice. Infield single by Rooms, single to left by Diaz, and here's Griffey. Two balls and one strike. Dodgers moving Murray off the line. Eddie was playing very close, and Russell came over and said, no, move over to your right. Get off the line. They don't expect Griffey to get a ball that he could pull.
And that's exactly where Fernando was pitching him, away, too, trying to keep the breaking balls on the outside part of the plate to him.
2-1. 2-2.
Shelby in center field over in right center, too. There's a little contradiction in that sense. Shelby on the right field side has second base in center. Moving Murray off the line.
Two and two, the count to Ken Griffey, 39 years old, the father of Ken Jr., who's playing so well for Seattle. And for Griffey, he is struggling now, striking out 3 times in this series. 2 down, and Lenny Harris coming up.
All 3 pitches that Fernando made to Griffey that were strikes, the same spot, the slider down and away. And Griffey, you're looking for something in the middle half in, I would suppose, to pull in that situation, trying to tie the ball game up.
Amazing.
Good pitching by Fernando there.
Yeah, but you know, for a veteran hitter, not very smart hitting on Griffey's part. Every pitch he was flying open as if to pull, not once thinking maybe I'll go with that downer down and away and go to left field.
Not an everyday player, and been playing mostly against right-hand pitchers.
So now you have Lenny Harris, and he opens up against Fernando, trying to get that right hip out of the way. Ball 1. Harris, 2 singles, fly to center, picked off. 6 runs, 11 hits for the Dodgers, 3 runs, 9 hits for the Reds. 1 ball, no strikes. Two and 0 to count. Now you have a switch hitter on deck, Todd Benzinger. Benzinger is hitting a little bit better right-handed than left. And Fernando's asking for time. I think he has to clean the lenses of his glasses. Perspiration fogging the lenses. So Charlie Strasser will come out and try and give him the optical service.
I tell you, I've been watching Ron Peronowski down in the Dodger dugout, and he just lives and dies with Fernando. I mean, it's been a hot day, and Fernando has been running the bases, going to third from first to third. He hit a double. He had to score, run from second to home. A lot of pitches just in the 6th inning.
102 to be exact.
And he has watched him all the way back and nursed him along and nurtured him along and boosted him along back from the injury to the shoulder. And well, I'm telling you, it's just a tough situation here, and it's just eating Ronnie up.
2 balls and no strikes to Lenny Harris. 6-3 Dodgers, 2 out, bottom of the 6th. And that's hit in the air to right. Gonzalez is there. So Harris, a fly ball to right. The Reds lead 2. Dodgers still lead 6-3, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
The Game of the Week is brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors, who invites you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. By Stroh's, fire brewed, family brewed for more than 200 years. And by Adidas Aftershave and Cologne, the essence of sports.
Kent Colby becomes the 3rd Cincinnati pitcher. Tim Burtsis, Mike Griffin, and now Kent. He swings a strike to Jose Gonzalez. Colby, rarely given the job of protecting leads lately, where in the past that was the whole idea of having him on the ball club. Popped in the air, and it'll be the shortstop, Barry Larkin. by-play in the Dodger dugout. And now in seeing Tim Belcher go down to the bullpen to warm up, you get the feeling that Fernando has said adios to the game.
He doesn't like to say adios either, does he?
No,
Does
not
not
at
like
all.
to come out.
But I think the heat finally got to him. Unorthodox delivery, Kent to Colby.
Not difficult to explain, but a whipping action as it comes around. The thing is to look at the shoulders, trying to explain how that motion works. Look at the line of the shoulders if you tilted them back around like they would normally be, where the right shoulder would be above the left shoulder in throwing. As you see, delivers, the right shoulder is below the left shoulder here. And that was a little different motion there. See, that was a sinker up on top. That's a different look.
One of the most intimidating pitchers, I believe, to have ever graced the National League was a pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds by the name of Ewell Blackwell. You had to be old enough to remember him, but if you're old enough to remember him, you remember him, because he was just not the type that you could ever forget. A remarkable sidearm pitcher. And I remember Pee Wee Reese saying he was the only pitcher who intimidated Ewell Blackwell.
Ralph Kiner, a great home run hitter for the Pirates, a Hall of Famer. You ask him who the most difficult and the scariest pitcher that he has ever faced, Ewell Blackwell.
Yeah.
You hear it more than once.
Every time I see Ciccoli, I think of Blackie. Ewell Blackwell pitched here 1942 and then 46 through 52. Ewell P. Blackwell. He was something. 2 down, and Alfredo Griffin, the batter. Double, struck out, and single. Ewell Blackwell, that's a different name. They had some of the kids who were drafted by major league teams, odd names. And you only hope that some of them can make it to the big league. That's a foul. Lash Bailey. Gary Shingledecker. Love it. Sean Drinkwater. The Yankees. Shad Mix.
Are these real names,
Yeah.
or are names that agents are giving them
No.
to?
Here's one the Royals drafted. Toriano Sweet. How about the Brewers' Fausto Tejero? And how about Alfredo Griffin coming up with his 3rd hit? And he's not going to stop at first. And he takes second base on Rooms to left. 2-out double for Alfredo. He had 2 doubles last night, so he's had 4 doubles in 2 games in this series.
Good aggressive play by Griffin. 2 outs in the inning. Get yourself to second base. No Valenzuela is out of the game. They're going to use a pinch hitter. Get to scoring position with 2 outs. That was good heads-up baseball. If you get thrown out, fine.
Last night, he was at second with 1 out and the pitcher at the plate, and he stole 3rd. So the Reds played their infield up, and Mike Morgan hit a blooper that might otherwise have been caught, but because the infield was up, it dropped for a base hit and the run scored. That was true aggressive baseball that was cashed in. Now we'll see if his aggression to take second is cashed in by Franklin Stubbs, who'll bat for Valenzuela, and Tim Belcher will be coming in to make his first relief appearance of the year. Franklin Stubbs, 3 hits as a pinch hitter, and he's hitting .250 for the year. He lost his job against right-handers. He was always the first baseman. But when Eddie Murray came over, Franklin is now a part-time player. And Fernando, along with Mike Morgan, who pitched last night, has the rest of the day off. Oh, 0-1. High fly ball into deep left center field. This baby is gone. Home run over the left center field wall for Franklin Stubbs. His first home run of the year. He has 4 RBIs, and the Dodgers now take a commanding lead of 8-3. So the Dodgers piling up runs against that area of the Cincinnati team that is so vulnerable. And Rose knows it. He was forced to start Tim Burtsis because Danny Jackson was hurt. And then Mike Griffin and now Ken Tekulve. And the Dodgers enjoying every minute of it now.
We talked about how well the ball will carry here. Look at Alfredo Griffin doing backstep dance around third base. How well the ball carries here at Riverfront Stadium, especially during the daytime. As Stubbs hit that ball right on the nose. You could hear the crack of the bat all the way up here in the booth. Opposite field, he really cracked that one.
Here's John Shelby. Remember, Mariano Duncan had to come out with a strained hamstring, so Gonzalez moved to right and Shelby went to center. You want to know how tough baseball can be playing for a living, you ought to talk to this man. He has just had a dreadful time. And yet, to his credit, he has maintained his basic, sound, happy personality. He has not brought it off the field at all, and sometimes I wonder how in the world he's done it. He's just had a terrible time. He's hitting 126 right-handed. He played here last night. Now, he's from Lexington, Kentucky. He has a lot of relatives across the river. And they all come here to see him play. And you know they were coming here last night. He struck out 3 times.
You know, 200 and some odd times at bat. 7 RBIs. You think it's almost impossible to have that.
I think it is the worst slump by a fellow playing every day I've ever seen.
222 times at bat.
Yeah.
To the plate.
He's a good man, too. You hate to see him agonize.
7 RBIs, 61 strikeouts.
3-2.
See that first move he just made right there? First move with the hands toward the ball. The hands really should be going back into hitting position, his head coming off the ball.
So John Shelby gets a walk. The Dodgers leading 8-3 here in the 7th inning. Watch his hands now.
This is not the 3-2 pitch. See how his hands are committed to the ball? Moving right toward the ball. And on the 3-2 pitch, he set up nicely. Took him way back to get ready. Just like the backswing in golf. You got to get him back where you can swing and get at the ball.
Willie Randolph struck out, fouled out, had a scoring fly ball and single. Oh, 0-1. And there goes Shelby. Pitch fouled away. John has stolen a half a dozen bases. You see him carrying his glove, and unless you follow baseball closely, you might wonder about that. In the old days, a base runner would get to first and he would immediately pick up a handful of dirt or even 2 and make sure he would squeeze them and hold them so that when he would slide instinctively, your hands would be in the air. You wouldn't drag him and suffer any injury. The modern day player, a lot of times he will carry his batting glove, which is what you see him doing instead of using the dirt. Uh-oh, he stumbled, couldn't go anywhere. They're going to get a forced play. John just couldn't get on track. 2 runs. 2 hits, and at the end of 6 1/2, 8-3 Dodgers, and now here's another edition of State Farm Rules of the Game. John Shelby tries to go, he's going to stumble, then he loses sight of the ball, and now he's totally confused as to what to do, and now he is disgusted. He's forced at second. So it goes.
Almost to say, what else can go wrong? Please don't hit the ball to me.
Todd Benzinger, Barry Larkin, and Paul O'Neill. And there's a drive into left center, and Shelby will backhand it. And that's one reason why he has played so much, because despite the fact he is struggling with the bat, his defensive play is held up. Don't forget tomorrow, the crown jewel of tennis, Wimbledon, and NBC Sports previews this grand spectacle tomorrow on NBC, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. 1 away, Barry Larkin, the batter, and Tim Belcher on the mound. Belcher was the opening day pitcher for the Dodgers. He's from Mount Gilead, Ohio. made his debut in a starting role for the Dodgers here in Cincinnati. This is his first relief assignment of the year. Well, last year he had a couple of saves before he became a starting pitcher. Hit foul out of play. The Dodger rotation would have Hershiser pitch tomorrow, Leary pitch Monday, and Belcher pitch Tuesday night at Dodger Stadium against San Diego. But as we mentioned, when Belcher was throwing in the bullpen, it could also be an indication, perhaps, that John Tudor is getting closer to making a start. We'll see. 1-2 the count. There's Oral Hershiser with Manny Mota. Hershiser tomorrow, 8 wins, 6 losses against Tom Browning, 6-5. Ground foul right by Lee May.
You wonder if the Dodgers are going to go out and make a deal. I mean, number of pitchers, starting pitchers especially, that they have. You look at Ramon Martinez, their phenom in AAA, who has done a great job for him when they called him up.
They called him up and he shut out the Braves and they sent him back down again.
Yeah. I mean, he looks obviously like he's ready to pitch in the big leagues. Hershiser, Leary, you have Fernando, who pitched well today. Looks like he's going to win his 4th game in a row. Morgan leads the league in ERA. Belcher. 7 starters you got.
Right, and then in the bullpen, 2 very good right-hand relievers in Alejandro Pena and Jay Howell.
Oh, yeah. 2 of the best.
A hopper knocked down by Eddie Murray. He flips it to Belcher, covering in time. And O'Neill loses an extra base hit because Murray's right-handed. He hit it to the glove side. Otherwise, that's down the line. So the Reds are gone in order, and at the end of 7, Dodgers 8, Reds 3. Yeah, it's not. Kirk Gibson, Eddie Murray, and Jeff Hamilton in the 8th inning, with the Dodgers leading 8-3. And there's a base hit, their 14th hit, which ties their hit high this year. Eddie Murray coming up, and this is the play he turned in on O'Neill.
Boy, that ball just ate him up and hit maybe a seam of that turf, and Eddie thought the ball was going to come up to him. Instead, it stayed down. The reason the play was made because Belcher, a good athlete right there. Murray made the good backhand play, and Belcher is a good athlete. Got over there and retained his balance and was right at the bag, able to make the play.
Chopper foul down the line. In looking at Kirk Gibson, you realize that today he has shown some fire with the bat after striking out in the 1st inning. In the 3rd inning, he hit a ball to deep right center. Paul O'Neill made a dazzling catch to take an extra base hit away from him. Then he singled to left. In the 6th inning, he hit a bullet, but right at Lenny Harris. And now in the 8th, he singles. He could easily be 4 for 5 today. Very easily.
And he has a stolen base as well.
For the Dodgers, of course, they're in a lot of trouble if Gibson doesn't hit, especially when he's in the number 3 slot, even though they played him 9 games leading off. Eddie Murray has flied to center, hit into a force play, and walked twice. 0-2 the count. Bring you up to date on a couple of other games. Boston leading Minnesota 6-2. Home runs by Dan Gladden and Wally Backman. Oakland leading Toronto 2-0 in the 4th inning. Dave Stewart trying to win his 12th. Talking before about the Reds doing well on AstroTurf. How about those Kansas City Royals at home? The Royals at home are better than 3 out of 4. They've won 26 and lost only 8 at home. Montreal, Chicago. Montreal snapped the Cubs' 5-game winning streak yesterday, and they're scoreless today. Kevin Gross and Paul Kilgore. Sinker whacked into the right field corner, and this one is off the wall. It'll be a long single as O'Neill played it perfectly. Gibson stops at 3rd.
Boy, Gibby is really having trouble stopping. Maybe not getting going, but that slowing down motion, pounding his knees. And, you know, sometimes he
He might be coming out.
Yeah, he may have hit a piece of that turf. He still runs well. Seems to be able to accelerate decently. Not as well as Kurt Gibson but run, but that stopping, slowing down on that turf and pounding those knees. Malfitano and Gibson both looking over into the dugout.
I tell you, Jacoby was lucky he only gave up a single. You talk about pitching to a guy's wheelhouse or in his kitchen. He made a deadly pitch to Eddie Murray. Deadly for him because it was low and inside around the knees, and Murray has just destroyed pitchers with that kind of a pitch. And he almost hit a line drive over the right field wall with that long single. So here's Hamilton, runners at the corners and nobody out. Ground ball to third. Sabo's going for the 2, and they got him. However, the run scores, and the Dodgers lead 9-3. So the Dodgers have tied their 2 highs, 14 hits and 9 runs. Second time this year they've scored 9 runs against the Reds.
Sabo chose not to go home on the play to get Gibson. Instead, going for the double play. Had he been able to field the ball and be on balance, I think he would have come home. The time the ball was hit, the Reds are behind by 5 runs as it was, and they'll afford to give up another run here in the 8th inning. But he just got the ball off balance, had no other choice but to try for the double play, and at least they got it.
Gonzalez takes a strike. He's walked and fouled out, singled and popped up. Figures Jose will be in the lineup again tomorrow against left-hander Tom Browning. Mariano Duncan had to leave the game with a strained hamstring. So you wonder if he's able to come back. And Gibson is obviously hurting a bit. 0-2. 9 runs, 15 hits for the Dodgers. 3 runs, 9 hits for the Reds. The Dodgers scored 4 off Burtzis, 2 off Griffin, and so far 3 off Jacoby. If you're Pete Rose, that tells you something, though, about your secondary pitching, doesn't it? The Dodgers, who are not hitting anybody, score 9 runs twice against your team.
Well, and they definitely are looking at the middle relief. Burtzis was his first start really of the entire year today. It really has been a middle reliever, a long reliever for Pete Rose. Everybody else coming in, Griffin and now Jacoby. This is not the end. This is not Dibble and Franco that you're facing. These are the middlemen for the Cincinnati lineup, for the Cincinnati pitching staff.
3-2 the count. Gonzalez with Mike Scioscia hitting back of him. The Giants will play tonight in San Diego. And the probable pitchers are Don Robinson and Walt Terrell. And the Giants, sitting atop the heap in the National League West, lead the Astros by 4. If the Reds lose and the Giants win, the Reds will be 5.5 back. And the Giants, playing great ball, have won 6 straight.
Come from behind yesterday. Will Clark hit another home run. What a duo those two are, Clark and Mitchell.
And that's a base hit up the middle for Gonzalez, his second hit. So he's reached 3 times on a walk and 2 singles. And the Dodgers, for one of the rare days this year, it's a walk in the park. 9 runs, 16 hits. Mike Scioscia, the batter. In fact, in looking at the Dodger lineup, only Jeff Hamilton is outside the candy store with his nose pressed against the window. Let's go back. No, Hamilton got a hit in the 3rd inning, so everybody's had a little. 16 hits. Chopper foul.
Fernando had a couple of them.
Double and a single for Fernando, scored twice. Tommy Lasorda, flanked by Oral Hershiser and Joe Ferguson, and Hershiser wearing sunglasses like the skipper, no doubt wishing they could put some runs in escrow for tomorrow. That's going to be hit into left center field. That's the 17th hit. Gonzalez will be waved in by Amalfitano. The throw to Lenny Harris. He is shot. He was hoping to tag somebody, and Gonzalez was coming all the way. And for Lenny Harris, it's surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise, and what it really was is the speed of Jose Gonzalez. And being up by 6 runs at the time, Amalfitano saying, let's go, see some of that speed, turn it on. A miscommunication out there between Larkin and Harris at second base, and Larkin has to be aware of what the runner is doing. Somebody has to communicate it to Harris because he has his back to the infield. He was looking for Socia to be coming into second base.
Strike to Griffin, who has 3 hits today. Griffin with 2 doubles and a single. He has hit in 9 straight, and his average now is .261. Ground ball to Benzinger, and that's the last out of the inning, but the Dodgers add 2. Some sarcastic cheers from the customers, and at the end of 7½, 10-3 Dodgers. Don't forget, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sports World, the Survival of the Fittest and the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. NBC Sports World. Dave Anderson takes over for Jeff Hamilton to get in a couple of innings. Dodgers having a high of 10 runs and 17 hits at the expense of Messrs. Burtsis, Griffin, and Tekulve. Tim Belcher pitching to Joel Youngblood, Chris Sabo, and Rolando Rooms. Tim Belcher trying for a save. He's asked to pitch 3 innings and give Fernando his 4th win of the year and his 4th straight win.
You know, a game like this can fool you, Vinny, if you look at it in the wrong perspective. Here, the Dodgers, 7 hits, 10 runs, 10-3. They are still a ball club that needs some hitting. They need some production at the top of the lineup. You know, and you really are facing, exactly as you said before, they're facing the middle group of relievers for the Cincinnati Reds versus Griffin, who was just called up, and Tekulve. The game against middle relievers where you blow the opposition out does not make a team healthy.
Oh, no.
That's right. You really can't consider this as part of the overall program. Like spring training when you score all your runs in the, in the 7th, 8th, and 9th against the AAA pitchers, right?
Exactly. Well, I'm sure Lasorda is not going to be sold a bill of goods that he has Murderer's Row again. Fouled away. But it does give Pete Rose something else to think about. He knows, of course, he has come up short with Danny Jackson on the DL.
Injuries will show your weaknesses as quickly as anything. And show your depth. And depth is extremely important when you're playing a 162-game schedule because you know you're going to have injuries. That's just part of the things that every ball club has to cover. And the good ball clubs cover them well. You just look at the Oakland A's. They have covered well, even with the injury to their big guy, Jose Canseco.
Pete has had his outfield wrecked, among others. A drive into center, right at Shelby. 1 down. That'll bring up Sabo, who walked, grounded to third, and flied to left. Dodgers have really only had 2 games this year where it was one-sided, and both times against the Reds. Sabo, 0 for 2. Strike. Rob Dibble walking down to the Cincinnati bullpen. He has been clocked on the speed gun 100 miles an hour. That's a base hit. So Sabo's 1 for 3. And the batter will be Rolando Rooms. That's 10 hits for the Reds.
Boy, I like Belcher. I really like his arm.
He has good technique, which is a thing you were blessed
good mechanics,
with. You know, anyone who saw you pitch, I mean, you pitched where it didn't seem like you put any strain on your arm. You could always see your back driving and your legs driving you off the rubber. And Belcher pitches the same way.
I really like his mechanics.
Yeah.
You know, you look at his record, 4-6. ERA just over 3. And you look at the number of innings that he's pitched, just over 100. Only 80 hits has he given up. And you wonder why. No runs, no support. 4 wins and 3 shutouts.
Talking about his mechanics, we can show them to you.
A big, strong kid, big, thick shoulders, bending the legs, need some flexibility in the lower half of the body.
Did you always pitch as well as you pitch when you were in the big leagues? I mean, did you always have the same mechanics?
I suppose I probably had somewhat the same mechanics. I certainly didn't pitch as well.
Well, you didn't have anybody who suddenly said, no, wait a minute.
No, I didn't have somebody big change. No, I think you go through, and any pitcher goes through a process of development, just like a hitter will go through a process of development and refinement. The more you know, the more you understand about pitching and or hitting, the more you refine your swing. I remember watching Joe Morgan go through periods of time like that where you'd see him one year to the next and he'd look like a different hitter, but at this point he looks like a better hitter than he did last year because he always was refining his technique and his mechanics about hitting.
First and second with 1 out, and Bo Diaz will be coming up. The other thing, obviously, a very hot day. I can remember a doubleheader in Houston before they built the dome, where the temperature was absolutely fierce. I think they had 100 to 150 cases of heat prostration, and it was a doubleheader. Drysdale and Koufax pitched. They each lost 15 pounds in the heat. Can you remember any excruciating game that you pitched that way?
A few.
Popped up, and Randolph going out signals that he will take it. That was not the infield fly rule. There was not a reasonable expectancy that he might catch it. Herm Winningham is now going to come up and hit for Tekulve. Winningham missed 30-some-odd games. He had a bad leg. And Winningham started in center field last night. Went 1 for 3, had a stolen base, scored a run.
You talk about losing weight. The most I ever saw was Jerry Koosman. He lost about 20 pounds one day. And the big German left-hander.
Out of Minnesota?
Out of Minnesota, playing for the Mets, and we were playing someplace where they had artificial surface, and it was the middle of summer. A day game.
20 pounds.
20 pounds of fluid. That's a lot of fluid to lose out of your system.
Well, they give you salt tablets and all that stuff.
And all the drinks that you can get on the bench over there. Thirst quenchers, and put the electrolytes back in. It's gotten very complicated. Used to be water.
Years ago in Ebbets Field, they had a bucket with mouthwash in it to try and help you rather than have you drink water. And the starting pitcher went over and wasn't thinking and took a ladle and drank it. High fly ball to deep right center. Shelby to the wall to make the catch over the shoulder. So Herm Winningham, a long out to Shelby. The Reds lead 2, and it's still 10-3. 10-3 Dodgers in the 9th inning. Rob Dibble, the fireballing right-hander, comes out of the Cincinnati bullpen. He's the one who's been clocked on the gun as high as 100. Pitching to Tim Belcher. 1-1 to count. So it's been Burtsis, Griffin, Tekulve, and now Dibble. You watch him throw that hard, and you think of the old baseball story where the hitter turns to the umpire and says, I thought that sounded high.
There's the old saying about, wait and be quick. Forget about the first part of it. Just be quick.
Just be quick.
Look at Belcher taking his rips in there. He's standing right on top of the plate, and Dibble came inside with one. Didn't move an inch. There's a little ego going on right here, too. I'll guarantee you that.
A little pop-up. Diaz going up the line, and Bo makes the play. During the day, we have reminded you about the Wimbledon special tomorrow and NBC Sports World tomorrow. And we would also remind you one more time that NBC has been following the story of Pete Rose since April. Bob Jamieson is here in Cincinnati, and NBC will be on the scene when we get the report tomorrow from Judge Nadel about whether the temporary restraining order and then the following injunction, et cetera, or whether it's denied, and then Commissioner Giamatti will hold his hearing on Monday. We'll know that tomorrow at noon, we understand. 0-2 the count of John Shelby. Shelby walked in the 7th inning. So 2 down in the 9th inning. And the batter will be Willie Randolph. Randolph is using a bat right now that he calls his pea shooter. And it is a very small, light bat. It's about, let me see, 31 ounces. And maybe at the longest, maybe 33 inches long. It's really a short bat, his pea shooter. And it's his idea that he can wait longer and be quicker. Well, we'll see about that here.
He doesn't have to wait any longer.
No. It's 0-2 the count.
You better get it going.
The moment has arrived.
I hope he has a couple of those, because if Dibble keeps coming back inside, that little bat is not going to last.
It really is a pea shooter. When you see some of the big bats that guys swing, this one is really a model. Well, all Dibble did was strike out 2 of the 3 hitters, and at the end of 8 1/2, Dodgers 10, Reds 3.
Tim Belcher was up. A couple of things going on. Look at the way Belcher's hanging right in there. Oh, man, a good swing off of Dibble. Now, Dibble can't believe that Belcher didn't strike out. Don't watch Diaz. Now, watch where Dibble goes. Dibble was walked all the way into foul territory. Couldn't believe that Belcher got wood on the ball. All right, now there's Diaz. Throws the ball, but now watch for Dibble. There he goes. Can you believe that guy hit the ball off of me? And he went on to strike out the next 2 hitters anyway.
The executive producer of NBC Sports, Terry O'Neill. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, John J. Filippelli. The telecast of today's Game of the Week, produced by George Finkel, directed by John Gonzalez, pregame produced by Les Dennis, features produced by Ricky Diamond, technical director Ron Whitaker. Belcher, a fly ball pitcher, and 4 of the 7 outs have been fly balls to John Shelby. Now he's working on Benzinger, hitting left-handed for the first time. Benzinger against Fernando. 0 for 2 with a walk, then went against Belcher and flied out. A little late. 1-2.
I thought the ball Winningham hit off him was out.
Oh,
I really did.
Yeah, he
just
crushed
got
that.
under it, just a fraction. When it left the bat, at least from up here, I thought it was out.
1-2.
Usually we pitchers can tell which ones, you know?
Yeah, it's like, you know what I can remember? I have a really great ear for a broken or cracked bat. Honest.
Well conditioned?
Yes, exactly. 2-2. Tommy Helms sitting with Pete Rose, part of the Big Red Machine. Tony Perez down there in the dugout as well. 3-2. Got him. 2 down in the 9th. You know, another thing that comes to mind in the heat in this ballpark, how tremendously strong, not just talented, but how tremendously strong Johnny Bench was.
Oh, stamina-wise, yeah.
To catch and hit and throw. Oh, he was really blessed.
Game after game, year after year, on the artificial surface. He was certainly blessed.
Average 18 RBIs, I think, every 100 at-bats for 18 years, something like that. That's a fair ball. Barry Larkin just tucked it inside the foul line. So a double for Larkin. Two down in the ninth inning. You could call that double a murmur of protest. That's about all. It's 10-3 Dodgers in the ninth with 2 out. The batter is Paul O'Neill. O'Neill is 1 for 4.